Secretary Wells. Board Member Martinez.
Present.
Board Member So. Board Member So. And I am here, so we have four to start the meeting, and we shall go to item 2. Comments? Any comments?
Board Vice President, there's no comments from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on to excuse me, item 3, reports. And there's a request to move up item E, request for approval of gift donation, TBA, KMS, NMS, Cordova Construction, and Year Out Energy 2000 from each sponsor donor by Dr. Pandora Mike. So we will move item E and start with item E.
No, it's just reports.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with item E. If everyone can come up. Shall I start over?
Good evening, Board President Suzette Haskey Overly, Vice President Aspis, Secretary Wells, and board members, and Superintendent Carlson and audience. Thank you for having us on the agenda. And we are here to request for approval of accepting the donation that was presented to the district on behalf of all the middle schools. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce one of our students who is one of the Warrior Student Councils at Sebatai Middle School. And I'll let her talk a little bit because she has a statement. This is Sophie John.
Good evening, School Board President Haskey. Good evening, School Board President Haskey, Overly, board members, superintendent, and community members. My name is Sophie John, and I'm a secretary at Sebatai Middle School. The 18 on the 2022 October 15. My parents are Randy John and Karen John. I voiced my concern for more field trip funds at the governor's town hall visit on April 12th at Shiprock High School. I voiced my concern because I feel that field trips are important for our learning in this year. Our warrior council was not able to go to the gathering of the nations due to lack of funding. I also have a letter to read from our warrior council. Dear Cabinet Secretary Ricky Sonera and New Mexico Department of Transportation, Governor Lujan Grisham, Cordova Construction, Year Out Energy, CCSC, and our school administration and board. On behalf of the Saboteur Warrior Council, thank you for your generous support for educational field trips. Your donation is greatly appreciated and important for our students to have the opportunity to experience cultural integration. Educational field trips allow us to experience the real world and hands-on experiences with indigenous nations of North America. New Mexico offers a diverse array of opportunities to experience, such as the White Sands National Park, touring the University of New Mexico, museums, and Santa Fe court trials for our students to participate in. We are very thankful for you providing funds to enhance to our learning by exploring our great state of New Mexico. I respectfully request that you accept the donation for all CCSD middle schools for educational field trips. Thank you.
And now we stand for any questions.
I'll start off first. I was there at that town hall when this occurred, and I was so proud of our student standing up and asking, and then the response of the cabinet, not necessarily the governor, but her cabinet, and there they stepped up, and I believe it was transportation, and they were able to get this donation. So thank you so much for doing so. And I was teasing her, and I said, I think we need to send her to Santa Fe, get more funding for us. Thank you. Any comments?
If I may, I truly appreciate any student, no matter what grade, the fact that you have done what you have and achieved. It's nice to be able to see that involvement, and that you care enough to invest your time and your voice to help your fellow students. You are absolutely to be commended. So I appreciate your voice. So keep it up. Thank you very much.
And President Haskell, do you have a comment?
I would say everything that's been said. Thank you for being an advocate for your peers. It was great. I was there. I saw it too. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And just one more note, we have our Warrior Council sponsor and teacher and veteran teacher, Laura Torres here. And then we also have another Warrior Council member here, Nahanya Garcia Ham. She's also here as well to support her fellow students. So thank you again. And Mr. Randy and Karen John, parents.
Did any of you want to say something?
Yat education in Asani do has three do just kedo yeah Kudaji Nishnos Zawashichi, Nakurineta Shinando, but Anita Shiche. My name is Randy John, and I'm a community member. I recently retired full-time, so I'm full-time retired now. So I just wanted to kind of give a background of what happened is that Sophie was concerned about what she heard at the Warrior Council meeting, and then I heard them, my wife and her talking about it, and then my wife just told her that, you know, the governor's directors are going to have a town meeting, and if you're really concerned about it and serious about it, you can probably voice and ask them a question when you go to that meeting. And I heard them talking about it, and then I just said, yeah, you know, if you need to do that, you know, you just do so. And I was surprised she did want to go to the meeting, and she did. And then she actually signed up to speak at the meeting, and then there was and so you know, just that I commend her for doing so, stepping forward and doing the same thing what you guys already spoke to her about, and thank you for recognizing my daughter, our daughter, my wife and I, Karen. So I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go on to A. Item A. Unique trip request, SHS FFA. Next General Food Products and Processing Systems Conference in Minneapolis on June 23rd, 30th, 2024 by Vicki Lake.
Good evening, President Haskell, Vice President Aspis, Secretary Wells, and members Montoya and so. I'm here to present a new trip that got offered to us. So this Next Gen conference, we've never had a student selected, and so these Next Gen conferences come across the desk. I have a student that is actually at Bon Wilson in the culinary program, and I know she has a desire, and she's done like food science contests through the career development events for FFA. And so I seen this one come across my desk, and I forwarded it to her, and I said, hey, this is something that you might want to look into. And next thing I know, about 3 days later, she's like, Ms. Lake, I need you to approve my application. I submitted it. And I'm like, what application? Kind of forgot already. And she's like, that Next Gen one. And I was like, oh, okay. So she submitted her application. I don't know how many applications are accepted, but I know not all applications have been accepted. She was one of the chosen. And so this is a new trip, so I come to the board to give her the opportunity, and I will be traveling with her. I will be flying out, traveling by fly, and then the conference covers the lodging and the meals while we're at the conference. So we cover the transportation there, and if we go in a day early or stay later, depending on our flights, then that is covered, and that is covered by the FFA Activity Fund. They will be doing tours focused on food products and processing. They'll be doing sessions, career plans, social time, roundtable discussions, and they'll even be doing some additional career development events like employability skills, resumes, cover letters, applications, and things like this. So this will be a first one for me, so I don't know what to expect, but I know it's a great opportunity. and we've only had one student selected.
Any questions, comments, board members?
Question.
Go ahead.
So you said your FFA fund is going to be able to cover the
Yes,
cost of the trip?
yes.
Okay. Very good.
So it'll come out of our activity fund from fundraisers and stuff. And the student that was selected has pretty much been to every fundraiser and every activity there's possibly to go, including she even travels with us to National Western Stock Show and Arizona National to help with the show animals.
So she's invested in the.
She's definitely invested.
Okay. And you also said that the selection of the attendants hasn't been made yet?
No, she was
Oh,
selected.
she was selected.
She
Okay.
was selected.
Misunderstood you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I don't know how many was selected, but she was one of the selected
Okay.
ones.
Thank you.
How are your transportation and with the state competition? How is that going?
We have a trip coming up in May 27th. We leave on May 27th and come back on June 1st. That one there was some discussion on the transportation request, but it was finally approved today.
Discussion, what's discussion?
That it was after the field trip, or after the transportation deadline of May 16th. So we requested a bus, an activity bus, to attend the state FFA Leadership Development event, which is a state competition held every year, the end of May, 1st of June. It's been held for years, as far as when I was in high school. And so that, I understand the transportation travel request, there's a deadline of May 16 for any travel after that. So there was a discussion on that, but we requested an activity bus because it's Kirtland, Shiprock, and Newcomb going, so a Suburban or just an ag truck would not have enough room. And it was approved today.
Did you get with superintendent on this?
I do not, I think Mr. Peter Deswood was in on the emails.
I sure hope there's no conflicts or no problems. I mean, Miss Vicky has always been, spread thin amongst all three schools, and I know they have their own ag teachers now, but she still plays a big important role, and I hate to think anybody is trying to throw a wrench in that for the students. Can you find out more?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lake.
Yep. Any other questions?
I know you do things beforehand, and sometimes it's way beforehand, so, with the ending of the school year, I knew the state was coming up.
Yes, and you guys approved all those trips in July 2023 last year.
And is it probable for transportation or any other person to deny or cancel a trip besides the board, when the board gave consent?
No, there's rules, and that's why it probably took a while, because generally speaking, trips after the 16th wouldn't be allowed.
Well, we don't even know those rules. That's what we're
Okay.
finding out tonight.
Well, I don't
And-
think rules like that are that important. When we have students wanting to go on a trip like that, sometimes rules can be overlooked, especially if the board's already approved.
Well, I feel like, the board has already given approval, and whereas somebody else can say, no, they can't. Why bring it before the board.
I understand your line of questioning, and I agree, and make sure that if the board does approve it, that we will make sure the trip happens. I don't know if there's any information that I'm unaware of. Is Theodore or anybody else? But no.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, board members?
I have none.
President Haskell?
No, just a really good job to the student who was selected. So learn as much as you can and bring it back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lake.
Secretary, did you have a question?
Just a comment.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. A comment on your diligence and the hard work and being on top of it to allow this individual to go.
Thank you.
Congratulations to the individual and to you as well, the work that you do.
Thank you. I asked her if she wanted, students can go alone, like on these trips, but when I asked her, she's like, no. And I said, well, do you want your parents to go with you? No. No. You have to take me. And I was like, okay. So, thank you guys for your support.
That's a world of trust on her part.
Yeah, it is.
Very
I don't
good.
know why. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
The board vice president. The board vice president.
Go ahead.
Have you see so zoomed in?
Matt zoomed in.
Yep, I'm online.
Okay, did you hear the last presentation?
Yes, I did it from Ms. Lake.
Yes. Are you want to comment? She's getting ready to leave. Do you want to comment?
Not at this time. I just want to say thank you and good job, good work to everyone that's involved.
Okay. She gave a thumbs up. Okay, we'll go on to item B. Unique trip request. Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, on June 24th, 29th, 2024 by Edward.
Good evening, school board. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated. So we're here again for Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference. We are sending Justin Charles, who's a will be a Shiprock graduate, coming up very soon. We're proud to say that this is Mr. Clary's construction. His program has produced the last 4 state construction. So Justin is the 4th. So the 4-peat. So now the pressure is on for the next kid for the 5-peat. And we have a kid who's coming back who took 3rd place in the competition. So of course he's kind of the front runner, because last year Justin was the 2nd place finisher at Skills USA. And so kudos to Coach Clary for producing these amazing students year after year. At Skills USA, they will fly into Atlanta, Georgia. Monday is their travel day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the Skills USA Championships. I've had the honor of being involved with these championships as a classroom teacher, and I can just say that this experience for our students, for the teachers as well, it's phenomenal, because essentially you have the best from all over the country coming together and we're talking anywhere from 10 to 15,000 students competing in hundreds of different competitions. And the cool part about the national conference is that a lot of our industry leaders are there. Our Army, Marines, they're recruiting students. They're trying to get the top kids to enter into these professions, and so they know that the talent is there. So they go there and recruit. And so it's a great opportunity for our students to really expose them to what's available to them from our industry partners. And Skills USA is a huge component of that. So we're really excited to be a part of Skills USA. And then Friday is the awards session, and then Saturday is travel day back home. So does anybody have any questions?
Any comments, questions? Board member?
Question.
Go ahead.
How is this being funded?
I believe we had grant funding year after year set aside, because we're kind of expecting this trip, and then that trip was approved by Mr. Switch, and so we kind of have that money set aside in it.
Very good. What portion is he going to be taking part in, or is it random?
Construction.
Okay, just construction itself.
Yes.
Any specific aspect of construction?
So generally, but it's mostly framing. And so what they do is they show up to the competition, and they do the same thing for state. And so basically, what coach will do is there's different components of framing, and they'll be asked to maybe build out a window and a door, and build out a dormer, or whatever it might be. But you don't know exactly what you're going to be exposed to, so you have to prepare yourself for different scenarios. And so you kind of prepare them for what they're going to need. They give them the blueprints. The student is asked to get there. They read the blueprints, and then they get to work. And they start measuring, and it's real. Like I said, it's really neat to see Coach Clary's students show up to competition, at least at the state level that we've been able to watch. And I'll tell you what, they get to work, and a lot of times the other kids are standing aside watching them, like, what are they doing over there? Because they are ready, and that's why they win every year, because they are prepared. They work faster than anyone else. Of course, in the industry, that's important, right? To work at speed, but also be safe. And they just cover all those components, and it's, like I said, it's a lot of fun to see when your students are prepared for their task. And,
Excellent. Good luck to them.
yes, thank you. And I'll share that with Mr. Clary.
Please. Thank you.
Any possibility of getting video?
I'll have to ask Coach Clary, because each competition is a little bit different, because there's some competitions they kind of pull you away from the teacher, and they kind of isolate them, and because they don't want them to be sneaking any hand signals or anything. Like at the state level, you could watch, and we did get some pictures and stuff. So I'll ask Coach Clary if at the national level if he'd be able to at least get some pictures, but maybe some video clips that he can send to us. I think that'd be really also a good idea.
That sounds neat.
And maybe on our website or something. I think
Right.
just the festivities, so they have, on the first day, they have an opening session, and they have an awards session, and that's a big deal, because they hold it usually in a basketball arena. And like I said, there's tens of thousands of kids in there just going crazy, and lights and music, and it's a really cool time for our students. And so I'll ask Coach Clary to see if he can get some footage of all of that, and we could, like I said, maybe we could create a video of some sort and to put on our website and let people see what we do.
That's neat. Any other questions, comments?
No, I'd just like to say, good luck in the competition. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll share that with Justin and with Coach Clary.
Board member So?
No, all the information is in the packet.
Yes, good luck, and I wish him well, and gosh, that just sounds so, I'd like to see the electrical part of it, and even welding,
Absolutely.
so,
Yes, yeah, welding's amazing, yeah.
wow.
Actually, one final comment, one cool thing, it's not really related to Skills USA, but it's related to our construction students, and Justin's included. A few weeks back, we had Jonathan Flack, who owns Farmington Construction. He came in to talk with our students and visit with our students, and he saw the work that our seniors were doing, and he told all, I don't know how many of them are going to take him up, but he told them all, he said, if you need a job after you graduate, come see me. You know, your resume is right here laid out for us with the work that you've been doing. Come see us and you have a job. And so pretty neat when the community sees the work that our students are doing and they're willing to hire them on the spot.
If I may add, I mean, that's just absolutely proof positive that not everybody needs to go to a college, 2-year, 4-year, 6-year. If they have the skills and the ability, the natural talent to be able to do it, and they find a passion, they're set for life.
Yeah,
They're set for life.
and that's really what we're big on. You know, is connecting our students to be career minded. And some of the careers they're going to get into, they will need more education, formal education, and some maybe not. You know, because Justin is still considering finishing up his associates at San Juan College potentially in construction, and then maybe entering the workforce. So he's still figuring that one out. Same thing today. Actually, today we had PESCO. They came in and tested all of our welding students.
Whoa.
And yeah, that was pretty cool. And so they were kind of nervous and put on the spot because, you know, they're used to getting feedback from their instructor. But when you have professionals come in and say, okay, here's the blueprints, here's the material, let's see what you got. And that was really cool. And they encouraged our seniors as well. They're like, hey, if you guys are interested, you know, you can get on our website. We know who you are, and you can apply for a position because they had several openings at PESCO.
Excellent. Excellent.
And so it's kind of
excellent.
neat for them to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, hey, there's something for me here if I choose it.
Absolutely.
And so,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, what you're doing, and, you know, I had the privilege before the meeting to hear some of the things that may happen later and what you're putting into works, and I think that's so neat. Gosh, you know, it's only because people have passion that, you know, they seek out things like that, and thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things coming up. I can't wait to share them with you. So we're ready. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I'm here for double duty.
Yep. And there it is, CCSD Graduate Profile by Edward Garula.
All right. Thank you so much for having me once again. Mr. Destwood wanted me to present on the graduate profile. This is something we've been working on for quite some time. You know, kind of gathering all the pieces and then putting them together. Future-focused education has been a really important piece of this to help us gather our ideas together and then develop this profile. And so what we wanted to develop was, you know, what Mr. Destwood might recognize as the North Star, right? Something that helps guide us as we are preparing our students for the future. These are now indicators that our students can achieve so that we know that we're meeting the goals of our students and also the needs of our community and educational partners. And so I included the 4 pillars on this little presentation. The mantra for our graduate profile is moving forward, and that's exactly how we want to view our students. They are moving forward. And so we want our students to be culturally aware and community driven. That's the first pillar. We want our students to be physically fit and mentally healthy, so taking care of themselves, college and career ready, and individually prepared and responsible. So the cultural awareness piece and to be community driven is important. And so I included a little bit of what we came up with as far as a definition of what that pillar means. So we view this as a student having cultural awareness and as a positive perception of self and recognizing of our unique identity. We are proud of our past and have found a connection with our current community. We participate in building a future that is prosperous and rooted in our proud past to the state of Hojo. And so the indicators of that particular graduate profile, and we want these to be I can statements for our students. These are the things that our students will do and are capable of. So I can engage with family and look to elders with wisdom. I can hold elders in high regard and respect. I'm aware of other cultures and languages and make connections with my own culture and myself. I know who I am and where I came from because of my language and culture. And then the second pillar, the second component of what we want for our students is to be physically fit and mentally healthy. So holistic health, holistic health is a culture of belonging, safety, and self-care in a school climate that is welcoming and fosters trust, where members of the school community are valued for their rich diversity of experiences and are encouraged to share their physical fitness, knowledge, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual components of health. And so what our students, the indicators for our students are, I can use strategies to manage stress and express emotions appropriately and take time to build social connections. And we always tell our students, we can teach you the skills to get a job. These are the skills to keep a job, right? To be able to have control of our emotions and to be appropriate. I can advocate for a yearly physical, participate in regular physical activities and reduce screen time, and also working to achieve adequate sleep. And so we feel like this is an important component for our students to work toward, is to take care of themselves, because we can have all the skill sets in the world that we're taught, but if we're not physically able to feel well enough to produce and utilize those skills, then all of us we're not. And then of course, plenty of sleep is a big part of that. And then the thing that we always talk to our students about is too much screen time. That definitely affects sleep. And then the last indicator is I can eat a balanced diet and provide proper nutrition, thus optimizing the overall function of my body. So of course, nutrition is an important component of taking care of ourselves. The next component, or the next pillar, is being college and career ready. Utilizing tools provided in school to build a college and career readiness plan ensures that every graduate has core academic knowledge, skills, and habits to succeed in future endeavors post-graduation, getting our students ready for the next step. I can complete my graduation requirements as defined by the state of New Mexico and CCSD. I can complete a college or job application accurately. I can contribute to and understand my New Mexico Next Step plan and its components, career and college goals, career field research, design high school course plan, etc. I can choose a PED-approved CTE program of study to become a capstone concentrator and a capstone completer. And this is something I really try to emphasize when we're talking about CTE, is the New Mexico graduation rates right now are right at 74%. But when a student is a CTE concentrator, the graduation rate jumps to 97%. So when our students are engaged in CTE and they're connecting courses, they're seeing the relevancy of their education, they're much more likely to graduate. So to me, that's why I'm so passionate about CTE, because when our students are engaged, they graduate, they finish. And that's a New Mexico statistic. That's not even a national statistic. That's our New Mexico. And I will attend one college career fair and one college career workshop. And then the next pillar is individually prepared and responsible. Skills and the ability to solve problems and routine daily activities, school and workplace. Students will have skills in time management, critical thinking, communication, perseverance, networking, goal setting, and grit. I can competitively participate in a variety of athletic and academic activities, developing perseverance, goal setting, and grit. And again, I feel this is where our students can gain some of these skills in learning how to deal with adversity and push through adversity through athletic competition, and also pushing themselves academically. I can develop my career interests and networking skills based on my personal and academic interests. I will develop my resiliency and perseverance by engaging in challenging activities that push me out of my comfort zone. And lastly, I will take time to reflect critically on my learning and personal development. So a big component of that is being self-aware, right? That self-awareness piece, you know, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And teaching our students to be able to analyze themselves so that they can grow even more so. Because if you're not aware of your weaknesses or what you have to work on, then I feel like that really hinders our progress. So anyway, that's all I have for our graduate profile. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll take those.
Question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So, purposeful or not, this aligns quite well with the community schools.
Absolutely.
And when you look at what those 6 pillars that they have, it's from what I know and understand, and I've been doing some work with them, or just started to do some work with them, that I think we're right in line if we can keep that momentum moving, especially in the elementary schools, and develop more community schools, and you catch the children earlier in their lives and to help to formulate and give them options and opportunities to develop younger. This will set them on a more purposeful path, especially once again in junior high and high school, to be able to find themselves. So this is very good. Thank you.
Well, that's part of the, as we're trying to figure out how we're organizing ourselves through career technical education at the high school level. Now we're finally getting to that component, like how are we in alignment with the middle schools, right? And then the talk is we all the way down into elementary school. I had a discussion with the talent coordinator from San Juan Regional Medical Center, and they informed me that they have 180 positions to fill at an average salary of $100,000 a year, right? But do we have the skilled workforce to fill a lot of those positions? And so that's kind of our job, is to make sure we have individuals that can take some of these high-paying jobs. But that's the talk, is they really wanted to go to work with us because they know that that's where the talent is. And that's the way they're talking. They're like, we need to talk to students in middle school and elementary school and get them dreaming about what's next. Because they came right in. They were super aggressive. And with our nursing program, we had 11 students from Shiprock and Kirtland in the pre-nursing program. And so this talent coordinator asked, she's like, where are they? And I said, well, they're doing their clinicals right now with San Juan College West. She went into that classroom and she spoke with the students, and she offered them all jobs at San Juan Regional Medical Center. And so far, 9 of the students have taken those jobs. And so there's people in our community that want to work with us and want to see our students have success. And so, like I said, the winning just keeps continuing with our students, and like the growth possibilities are.
No, I really appreciate that, because we went to the National School Board Conference in New Orleans, and they were talking about some of the schools around the country that are doing similar things. And it's just nice to know that here in our little corner of the world, we're doing the same exact thing.
Absolutely.
But people aren't hearing about it. And
well, it's very new. This is all brand new.
Absolutely.
Weeks old, right? And so that's going to be our job as PR, is like, let's let our students know what's available to them.
well, not just the students, but the families, and bring them back, because we've talked about that. Be able to hopefully bring students back into the community with the programs that we have. And when I mentioned community schools, one of the pillars is the rigorous community connected classroom instruction. Cultural belonging, safety, and care. Those types of things that you're developing younger in these individuals, which will strengthen them as they move through the educational process. So good for you guys.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Board members? Sharon, can we go back to the first pillar? Board Member So? So this, I think this part here is, I think pretty much everybody has seen it through Facebook and what occurred in Farmington. And so I'm really glad that, you know, we talk about it as a district, and I'm glad that Bond Wilson is recognizing, you know, this aspect. And so thank you. Yes, I think it's very important that, and I like the bullet points, you know, about looking to elders, holding them in high regard and respect, you know, that I'm glad that's pointed out. So.
Yeah, that's one of the first things that, you know, when having discussions with teachers is the first thing that we develop with our students are relationships. Because you could have the best curriculum in the world, but that doesn't matter if the student doesn't know that you're connected and that you are there for them, and you're in their corner, you know. And so that's what I always tell teachers, you know, if they're struggling with a student, they have a hard student. I said, usually your hard students have a hard life and they're kind of taking it out on you. But once they know that they're safe around you and they are comfortable with you, I said, they become your biggest ally, and they will fight for you, you know, because they know you care. And then anything's possible from that point with the student. So yeah, relationships and that ability to walk in peace and harmony, you know, as a community, anything's possible.
Yeah. And that's with any race, you know, and so thank you very much.
Thank you for the time.
Ms. Secretary Wells would like to say.
It's encouraging to see or to hear of the community, the interest of the community in coming and say, hey, you finish this and you do this, you have a job waiting. That's it shows the students that you put forth the effort, you will be recognized, and you will have you can have a meaningful job opportunity, employment, to be able to provide. So it's encouraging to see the community backing and reaching out. It's helpful that they recognize that, hey, we are doing the training. These students are already interested. You don't have to try them out because we can see what they're doing, like with your welding and your construction and the pre-nursing program that you have. That's it's really commendable that the community is recognizing it and stepping forth, that we can keep the people here. They're receiving training and where they can stay here, and if the jobs are here, why not? So, commendable.
Could I add another comment? So again, as I mentioned, community schools, again, another one of their 6 pillars that they talked about is the expanded culturally enriched learning opportunities, tied directly to what you're saying up there. And that's one of the things that caught the attention from one of the individuals with the community schools for the PED that I started a conversation with, and was challenging them about not speaking about place-based education or identity formation and identity commitment, because that's a very powerful piece. And again, to tie into what Ms. Aspas said about what happened up in Farmington, to take that away from a child, to me, that's hashtag bring your kids back here to the res. We'll educate them. We'll let them be who they are.
Right.
We honor their culture and their language.
I thought that was a very unusual thing that happened.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like,
Absolutely.
I don't understand it.
But anyway, I just appreciate what you guys are doing over there, and I like what I see there. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll go on to item D, request for approval of gift donation, KCHS BPA, New Mexico CLIP Career Technical Leadership Project, $1,392.83 by Lynn Foster.
Good evening, board members. We're back. BPA, Kirtland Central Business Professionals of America. As you know, I believe in student leadership. So I have my current president and vice president, newly elected, just took over office 2 weeks ago. So this is their very first presentation. They will go over our award check that we got from the CTE New Mexico. They will go over part 1 and part 2.
Good evening, board members. I am President Padoni at Kirtland Central High School, Business Professionals of America, Region 1. I would like to introduce Vice President Lee.
Yate, Che, Eli Che, Kiani and Shell, Zay Touchni, Bushachin, Ashi, and Dashache, and Chili Dashanella. And today we would like to bring to you the New Mexico Career Technical Leadership Project for Kirtland Central High School Business Professionals of America. So part 1. We have established new officers for the 2024-2025 school year. Our chapter has met the requirements for the 2023-2024 Career Technical Student Organizations KCHS Region 1 funding. Membership started at 17 with the growth to 116 new members within a school year. And all required conferences were attended, and we have only been elected into office for 2 weeks. Now I'll let Madam President Bedoni take over.
I'll be talking about part 2. The donations may be used as follows to support our chapter. Leadership and professional development events, equipment needed to carry out activities for local career technical school organization chapter related to the organization guide, purchase services, for example, to obtain credentials and assist with membership dues, supplies and materials as determined by each local chapter to support career technical school organization activities, events, functions, and promotion, and to travel for advisors and students competing in events. And on behalf of KCHS BPA, we would like to thank you, board members, for allowing us to attend our national conference in Chicago, Illinois. Thank you. We have gifts for you that we brought back from Chicago, Illinois.
So they just got back 2 days ago. So they thought of you guys and thought they'd give you a little present. I'm sure they will have a presentation for you next month because they have lots to tell. They did kind of get cheated out on the travel because of tornadoes and broken planes. We spent 42 hours in the airport and 2 days, and we missed 2 days of our conference, which everything started. But these kids are troopers. I think our morale was low. I'll let you tell them, I'll let them do a whole presentation for you, but they learned so much. Chicago is a beautiful city. That's all I have to say. That's coming up. So any questions about our check?
Any questions, comments, board members?
I just appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Haskey.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank the students for thinking of us, and I'm sure I really look forward to their presentation, and thank you to the staff members that accompanied the students. Thank you for enriching our students' lives. Thank you.
So I'd just like to add that, again, what you guys are doing is outstanding. The program that you're running there is outstanding. You've gone to 116, is that what you said, members? That speaks volumes for how positive it is for more and more students to want to join. So I really appreciate that. Congratulations on your positions and also taking part in Chicago.
Chicago had China, India, and Canada there. It was very competitive. And we talk about the top 3, top 5 students in the world, and they experienced that.
Good for you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you for the gift. Not everybody thinks of us while they're on a trip. Okay, we're at item F, report on safety, handicap accessibility for graduation by alias or unknown person.
Good evening, board. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about what is planned for graduation next week. At all the sites, we have there are plans to make sure that there are adequate lighting, and the LSAs are there to help getting the elderly and handicapped to where they need to go. All CCSD graduation sites have ADA parking, and the safety team will make sure that somebody's there to make sure that they get those parking spots and that they're able to open the doors. Because I think that's what we found out, is that the cars just start parking too close, and then it gets cramped, especially at Newcomb. So they're going to ensure that somebody's there to make that happen. They also have side-by-sides that'll be roaming around and can make sure there's rides. Kirtland High School has transportation buses, and they'll also be going around. I'm not sure if they're KYA shuttles. I guess they used them last year too. So they'll make sure that that's all taken care of.
So on the handicap, are they gonna make sure, I don't know, within reason, that they have the handicap sign?
Yes.
I know sometimes some people can forget, but if you see a wheelchair or a crutch, you should know. Because, you know, it seems like the biggest problem is attitude and you know, they're just given a hard time. And I think the worst one is Kirtland, where, you know, they're when they're brought into the inside of the gate, you know, there's one person who does the assessment, I guess, the handicap assessment, and wonders if they're either not handicapped enough or not old enough, and it's ridiculous. And we can't have, you know, people that can barely walk, or, you know, are struggling, you know, we just need to bring them in, and then there's always the question of the person they're with, you know. Oh, you can let that person in, but you can't come in. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. And, you know, I think at the most part, we all know that if a person's in a wheelchair, then most likely the person that's pushing that wheelchair or helping needs to go in with them. And so, I mean, it just needs to, we just need to be better. Any other questions, comments, board members?
I have none.
I would also recommend having someone that speaks Navajo. We have a lot of elders and might not be able to express their needs in English, so have somebody available that will be able to assist to keep from people having to wait around, especially if they're in a wheelchair or they're on crutches and so forth.
That's a great idea, yes. And we do have Danae speaking LSA, so that'll work.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, board members?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I'm trying to think about, Shiprock's gonna have theirs inside.
Yes, so they did mention that there's gonna be they can drop off at the curb, and then also they'll still have the side-by-sides going around, and then they'll be able to pick up people from the parking lot and bring them up. And then there's the parking, they're calling it the VIP in the back, so they're prepared for that. And they have talked about it and trained them where to look for people, so. So they're aware to make sure that this happens.
Okay, and Kirtland,
do you want me to read what? Kirtland has the designated handicap parking, general parking, graduating senior drop-off. We'll also have KY shuttle, be picking up guests from Bond Wilson as an overflow. And everyone has a post. 2 will have they're calling them buggies, but they're side-by-side. And they'll rove the parking lots. 1 will be at the gate entrance, and 2 will be posted on the east and west side of the stands. Dave Hamlin and SRO Farley will be on the field. And the post, I think they posted signs everywhere, the handicap gate entrance with a deputy. So they're also gonna have 5 deputies at the graduation in Kirtland.
okay.
Oh, and then they're doing the fireworks, so they're prepared for that as well with the fire department.
Rebecca usually does a good job, so. Okay, any other? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you think of anything, just let Mr. Carlson know. And we can let them know.
Item G, OELA National Professional Development Grant by Berlinda Begay. And Superintendent, can you give us the reason why it's no longer accessible?
To my knowledge, this was a time-sensitive thing that Dr. Begay thought we'd be able to make that time sensitivity, but was unable to do so. They needed to submit the grant before the board could approve it.
So we won't be hearing that item tonight. Item H, student handbooks by Dr. Karina White. Item H.
Yeah, good evening, board members, and then the audience. I will be presenting to you on behalf of our elementary schools, our middle schools, and secondary schools, their upcoming school year student handbooks. This is for your review as far as, you know, what is usually shared as part of the school policy following, including the board policy, and then parent, what is important for parents to know. For each grade level, we had a principal take the lead and collaborate with other principals. So all the elementary principals got together, all the middle school and all the high school, to make revisions. And then that's what this would be about. They're pretty, there are a lot of pages in each handbook. But I think what's important, you know, is just the outline of what, you know, each handbook entails. And part of it is, you know, like I said, message to the parents, Title IX, plan of instruction, just naming a few. But like I said, there's a lot, how grades go, what we're looking at for graduation requirements.
Can I interrupt? President Haskell?
Yes.
I would like to say that, do you have a sample of the handbook? Was one sent to you?
No, I don't think so.
Miss Dr. White, was there any sent to the board prior?
Yes, I sent the attachments.
Board Vice President, this is Sharon. It's in your packet.
It's in board docs.
Packet.
Okay.
It's in the board packet.
Okay.
May I continue?
Yes, let me see if I can get on. Go ahead and continue.
So each handbook is, you know, appropriate for each grade level and even each age group. And the other thing that we went on ahead and had the schools do is develop or create their own cover letters. That way it would be specific and to their school sites. And I had an example of that from Sepatat Middle School. So it would look something like this, which would be the beginning pages to their handbooks. So this is from, like I said, Sepatat. So they have their school mission, school vision, their school goals, and other information regarding their mascot, their school colors, the administration. And then a brief letter to the parents. And then norms and behavioral expectations. And this would vary, for each school site. Like I said, they're developing their own cover letter of what they want at the beginning of the student handbooks. So this one is just a sample. And this is good to have because at times, beginning of the school year, we want to go over some of the important rules or even policies set in place for our students to be aware of. And then a good tool where, something to refer back to when some of the infractions are being addressed, how to follow through with those. So that's also how essential these handbooks are for. Any questions regarding the handbooks?
Yes. So for myself, I know it's been a number of years seeing what's in these handbooks for each school, and this is the only sample that you have in board docs, Dr. White?
There's a sample for each. There's a copy of the student handbook for elementary, middle school, and high school. You should have one of each. And then what Sharon just had earlier, that was just a sample of the school cover letter. So what you have here is, this is what the elementary, they have their table of contents, and it outlines what's pretty much being addressed throughout that handbook. And it's very similar through each one. Like I said, the only differences would be how some of the, I'm gonna say attendance procedures are a little bit different. The grading, the graduation, of course, requirements. Maybe some information.
For an example, can you give me what the policy or what stated in the handbook about cell phones for students?
So I'm gonna share what this is with the high school. So they're more leaving it at the discretion of the teacher. Now my document will open.
Madam Vice President,
Go ahead.
in regards to the elementary handbook, student personal property, students should not bring large sums of money or personal valuables to school. There is always a chance of theft or loss, especially with cell phones and earbuds and headphones, and the school's personnel will not be held responsible, nor will the school personnel investigate theft complaints such as of such items. That's basically what it's saying there, and there's should be a couple other places where it talks about it. This is for the elementary.
What about high school?
High school says pretty much the similar context. It says the use of cell phones and other personal electronic devices which includes tablets, cell phones, earbuds, headphones, have become a major source of disruption in learning communities nationwide. Many schools have banned them altogether, as have numerous businesses. It is our wish to teach our students responsibility by allowing the use of personal electronics in certain safe zones, which that they're referencing the safe zones to the commons area in the building, the cafeteria, and outside of the buildings. Teachers may approve the use of personal electronic devices for educational purposes in the classrooms. We are not responsible for lost or stolen electronic items. The school will not conduct an investigation. Noise level on electronics and earphones shall not disturb the educational environment or be audible to others.
So there's another portion for the elementary section of the use of cell phones and other personal electronic devices. Tablets, cell phones, earbuds, headphones have become a major source of disruption in learning communities nationwide. Many schools have banned them altogether, as have numerous businesses. Personal electronic devices should not be brought into the elementary schools. Should not. Does not say could not or must not. We are not responsible for lost or stolen electronic items.
Can I also ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, President Haskell.
I didn't read in there, I know that there's a situation that was at the middle school where students received suspensions for videoing, allegedly videoing fights or something. Is that in the policy too? I just went through it very quickly, but do we have things like that addressed in there?
I think that would be more under what we call our behavioral matrix of what we do our best to enforce. When, like I said, that would be considered, an infraction. And then it would be determined by our assistant principal to say at what level, that infraction is, and then they would follow the behavioral matrix. But that behavioral matrix is not in here.
Ms. Haskell?
Did you say Ms. Haskell or Ms. Aspis?
Ms. Haskell.
Yes.
I'm gonna read something to you. This is from the elementary section. It's under discipline policy. All threats to students and staff safety will be taken seriously and will result in disciplinary actions in accordance with the school board policy. Then it goes through a number of different bullet points: physical assaults, threats, harassment, name calling, racial slurs, intimidation, sexual harassment, spreading rumors, extortion, foul language, taunting, making insulting remarks. And the last one, use of the computer, cell phones, or any other electronic device to participate in any of the above actions. So it's covering its use and abuse of those aforementioned actions and behaviors.
Okay. Is the matrix going to be included? Behavioral matrix? Or thank you, Mr. Montoya.
We usually don't include the behavioral matrix.
Okay.
But that's because upon or after investigation of whatever incident or the infraction is, then the behavioral matrix is used to determine the level, meaning like the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we don't include it in the handbook.
And in the handbook, you have students' rights. Do you have like a code of conduct for parents and students to sign off on?
I think that's towards the end. They have a parent-teacher-student contract. Each handbook has it towards the end.
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay. Good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I hate to muddy and all of this and just rubber stamp and say, go ahead and go, and but as I was getting at, over the years, I think it's been some years, we have not looked at these handbooks to see what's all in there, and then the that's the first thing. If something's challenged by a parent in the court of law, that's the first thing they look at is handbooks or policies. And if it's not stated clearly, then we are at fault, or, and so I guess I'm asking the board, do we need more time on this? Or do you just want to get things done and just rubber stamp it?
May I make a comment?
Go ahead.
I actually went through the elementary portion because I do have some questions now in regards to, I'm asking this question to clarify specifically. This is going to be the handbook for all the elementary schools, Superintendent?
That would be the objective of doing this, yes.
Okay, so they're not going to have a supportive, their own sort of handbook for their school specifically?
So I believe there's a section that was shown at the beginning. Is that correct, Dr. White? That each school has that is sort of their own
That's a cover page.
cover page and has like the information.
But I'm asking if they will have their own additional student handbook or little policy book that they're going to have, so to say that they'll have two of them. That's what I'm asking. Or is it just going to be this one?
Okay, Dr. White, do you have the answer for that?
So what you see here is what, for example, would be used across all elementary schools.
So
And then
then,
the same for middle school and high school. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different is just their cover letter.
cover page.
Yep, cover pages.
So I'm to take that's a no, they're not going to have two separate books.
It doesn't sound like it. They will, no.
Okay. And since we're going to sit here and scrutinize a little bit, I do have some questions, like I said, because I started to look at it when I opened it up, and I had some questions and concerns. One of the ones was for retention. It says professional staff, that's on page 9. Define professional staff.
Professional staff would include like the certified, I'm going to say teacher of record, because the teacher of record would be the one who would know more information, and then they would have a discussion, an ongoing discussion with, I'm going to say, the building principal, and then other certified staff involved, which also this is part of, I'm going to say, our SAT, our student assistant team process for any retention.
Okay, I mean, that's how I understand it, but it's not defined. Because one can assume, let's just say you're a principal at a school and you have a financial clerk on your staff. Does that qualify as staff to make that decision or to contribute to that decision? That's why I'm asking the question. Is that a fair question?
That's a fair question. I'm assuming, you're talking about page 9, correct?
Yes.
In the elementary?
Yep.
So, yes, you're talking about the retention process, repeating a grade level under the recommendation of the professional staff in discussion with the parents, guardians on page 10, determining it to be in the best interest of the student. We will implement the SAT process to aid the student in progressing toward better academic performance. So I don't know if that spells it out well enough or if that needs to be rewritten at all, because, so what happens is, if that's initiated at all, there has to be a SAT process moving forward to even entertain the notion of retention. And if that hasn't taken place by, was it say December, then that student is not going to be recommended for retention, or by January, by midterm. So if there's a possibility, then the SAT process is begun.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know the actual law on that. I'm sure you probably do, that if the recommendation is retention, that the parents can actually override that.
Yes, they can.
Yeah, the first time. Yep. Figured you knew that.
The other question I had is on page 8, out of attendance, out of area of attendance. My question on that, Superintendent, is if we have students that are attending schools outside of their attendance zones, do they have all the proper documentation to do so?
Well, not necessarily. We do have students who are homeless. We have students who don't have any of that documentation available. We technically can't make them. However, if we have established they're outside of the attendance zone, we can ask for all the information, and they should have that documentation. We do allow students, the Open Enrollment Act says that we can allow students outside of the attendance zone. Generally speaking, those students might be on some sort of a contract saying something about discipline or attendance, but we do allow that. I don't know if that got to your question or not.
Kind of, sort of. So like a lawyer, it depends.
I get you.
Okay. All right, and then page 10. I believe it's page 10, yeah. Let me get down to it. Under health services. A health assistant or school nurse will be available throughout the week to see students. If the health staff is absent, then the office staff will assist the child. And obviously, we've had these conversations before about level of care and training. So what can a clerical do to provide that kind of service?
Boy, that's something that's going to be a difficult question to answer. Probably minimal services. I would imagine that if there's any kind of emergency at all of any kind.
Define minimal services.
Minimal services might be applying a Band-Aid, or we don't give...
Don't we have somebody from Student Support Services who can answer that question?
Amanda's here. She's got her hand raised. She's going, ooh, ooh. Is it okay if she answers? Go ahead, Ms. Sutherland.
Okay. So right now we have scheduling where the health aides cover, or there's nurses that cover when people are absent. If it's a situation that's planned out, or field trips and stuff, then there's delegation that's done for the medication part. But like Mr. Carlson said, if it's a Band-Aid or something like that, then that can be taken care of by anybody, but we do try as hard as we can to cover the health offices.
Okay, so do we have anybody in the Student Support Services that are actually qualified to make those type of determinations? Superintendent?
In student support services?
Mm-hmm.
You mean like a nurse?
With a medical background, like an RN that's in the administration?
Not in administration, no. However, we've had that conversation before, and the intention will be to have an RN, an actual nurse, make those decisions.
That would be nice.
For those nurses. Agreed.
That would reduce liability.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And can I clarify, the delegation has to be done by an RN.
So what happens if it's after hours, let's say, for tutoring? What do you do then?
So I'd say the same thing is as before during the school day, that if there's something minor that would need to be taken care of, and I would define minor as a cut or something like that with some antibiotic ointment and a Band-Aid. Anything beyond that, I would imagine, if it's after school, as a principal, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd call the parents immediately, and if need be, we dial 911.
Let's say if the student fell off a swing and hit their head, and what happens then?
911. Everybody's trained to a certain extent that we would immobilize the student if we'd find out their situation, and we'd wait for 911 to arrive.
And all your staff understand that?
To the best of my knowledge, absolutely. Doesn't mean there's not mistakes made, of course. I think everybody's aware that there's a litigious society, and that we're very careful for overprescribing any type of medical care or any other care.
That's why I asked the questions.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that's something where, yes, absolutely. Anything serious like that, we don't go outside of our own realm. And principals will talk to their staff about those situations.
Yeah, not to mention that I've taken part in emergency services myself for quite a number of years, so I do have a little bit of experience in that regards. That's why I asked the questions.
Yeah, and generally there's somebody on the staff who's trained in first aid, and hopefully there will be during after school at all times.
And lately, the last couple of years, we've been fortunate with the after-school program funding that, so we have students with diabetic needs and that have to have, so we're able to work with the grants people, Bellamy or whoever, and then have somebody on staff.
Okay. So if I'm going to continue, I'll go all the way down to page 30, the same document. Under search and seizures. It talks about no, is it page 30? No, I'm on the right one. Maybe I wrote it down wrong. Let me find it. I think that was my dyslexia kicking in.
Page 24.
24? Search and seizure? 23, yes. Let me find it. Thank you for the clarification. There is no requirement to notify parents, legal guardians of the student prior to the questioning. And again, this is pertinent to the elementary school. It's okay to do that with a little 8, 9-year-old to understand that?
I don't know exactly the nature of your question. Are you talking about actual search?
Yeah.
We don't perform searches that are intrusive in any way. As far as a search, like, is there something in your pockets? Can you show me your pockets? Might not need a parent phone call. Anything beyond something like that, absolutely we would. We don't search inside clothing or anything like that. So.
Okay, because I read it here, students who are suspected of committing a crime or violating the school rules are subject to interrogation, arrest, or discipline. And again, this is for elementary, so you're talking about elementary students.
May I clarify that answer, Mr. Carlson?
Sure.
And board chair. So this directly comes out of the board policy, so notice how it's cited J3400. So if there's any modifications that need to be made, we probably need to go back and modify the board policy.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Right, so there is one change that Amanda and her department at LRP. So it switched from, was it probable cause to reasonable suspicion? Reasonable suspicion to probable cause. So that does need to be updated. But again, principals took this directly right out of board policy so that it is consistent from elementary, middle, and high school. Because of course, we can't be making policies. We have to always refer back to what is written in the CCSD board policy.
My only concern is, again, when you're talking about the little kids, there's no requirement to notify. Well, let's just say, for the sake of discussion, you call in a little 10-year-old, and unbeknownst to the principal or the teacher, the child has anxiety attacks, and take him in there and he has an attack. Then what? Just because he's being questioned without notifying the parents. So that's maybe something we need to reconsider or look at for the safety of the child. Because anything can trigger, especially little kids. So, just a consideration. The other one is in the high school one, under page 39, where it talks about plagiarism. I know we've talked about this before, about AI and some of these national conferences and state conferences, and the use of AI like ChatGPT for plagiarism, and the attending tools that can capture that. That's not spoken of in there.
Mr. Carlson, may I answer that question?
Sure.
Board Pro Tem. So, Mr. Board Member Montoya, so that is something that is new. We are actually, we don't have a policy currently for AI. CNI is working with, or will be working with DART to come up with an AI policy that we can embed in, more than likely, probably board policy. Like I said, a lot of these, a lot of the information in the handbooks stem directly from board policy, so that is something we need to update. I'm not too sure if legal has seen any verbiage that's come down from NMAC. So I think once that's done, I mean, we've been hearing about it a lot recently in this past fall or spring. So it's definitely on our radar. In fact, it's been in our discussions in the last couple of months about what we need to do with AI. So thank you.
I believe.
Hold on. Desmond. So with plagiarism, how will that fit, or how will that rubric be used?
So more than likely what will happen, AI will fall under plagiarism. But like I said, we haven't seen any policies. In fact, I believe Ms. Herrig was.
But because it's in the handbook, and it seemed like that's how the rubric was being explained. So how would you, regardless of if you haven't seen that, I'm asking for an example, how would you apply that rubric to plagiarism?
Well, so I guess if the student is suspected of plagiarism, more than likely they could probably.
Can we have the rubric?
Dr. White, is the rubric on this in the high school handbook?
No, it's not.
Okay, do we have a copy of that rubric?
I have one, but I don't know if you want me to display it or share it.
So
but we do have one.
Will the rubric be incorporated into the student handbook?
If that's what the board wants, I think we can do that.
Right, so I guess like Dr. White, we're presenting this, and if there's any feedback and if you feel we need to add it, then we could take it back to the principals and then have it added. Thank you.
Ms. Aspis, I believe to your initial question about holding off and having more time to be able to look at this, because I believe the superintendent did receive a handbook in regards to updated policy from the NEA, and some of it did speak to AI and plagiarism as well, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Correct, and the board would need to adopt that policy. It needs to be presented to the board and adopted, and once it's adopted, it would go into the handbooks as well.
Even the board policies have not been updated. And so if they're getting it from the board policy, it's still, I think it really needs to go before the board and the whoever is working on this document. Because, even on the retention, looking on there, it doesn't state, all it says is reference the board policy. But I think in there, it should also state that it's really up to the parents if they want their child retained or not. I know one parent said that they didn't even know that. They figured it was because they were told by the teacher that they allowed their child to be retained, and yet they didn't know that they had they could have went ahead and said, no, we don't believe in that. So go ahead, Venturino.
Good evening, Vice President Aspas and members of the board. Just few notes and clarification on AI and the open AI. Actually, most of the in the education called it generative artificial intelligence, and it's an ongoing educational technology. One of the things the reasons why most school districts do not have a board policy about AI or artificial intelligence is because it's an evolving technology. And we spoke, and I am part of the Digital Equity Council for the state, and one of our kind of like conversation about the AI is if we set a policy today or now, and next month it's different. So it's kind of like we're given a local control on how we of course manage open AI or those tools that will be used by our students. It's because one idea is using AI doesn't mean it's plagiarism. Most university, and I've researched this in our top universities, that they are actually some departments or courses allowing AI as long as they are cited, as long as they are noted in their projects. Like most of the courses that I've seen that use AI are the media courses, like creative classes. If we set up a blanket policy that we will not be using AI at all, we're limiting our students, basically in that sense, college students, to limit their potentials in creating their of course, their creativity, artistry, and so on and so forth. I've been connecting with some of our leaders in technology directors from the state. We're kind of like collaborating how to get guidelines more so to how to use the AI in the classroom. And so far, CCSD, we had our security, we were filtering, again, ChatGPT, those AI that, but we were making an impression that they are bad or they are, doing or being used for plagiarism. But currently our system blocks those, or is currently blocking those websites or tools for our students to use, where if they go out from the network or our schools, that is where they can probably access those outside or externally. But I'd like to share some information about AI and open source for OpenAI. Thank you.
During our Region 1 conference, and it was shared that from the lawyer that gave that session, he talked about AI, and he talked about how a lot of that was inaccurate and plagiarized already, and that it's a big issue. And but amongst other things, I think, you know, our handbooks are really need to go over and look through them.
So I understand your comments, Mr. Venturini, I really do. There's one thing for creativity when it's talking about artistic and developing, creating, and design. That's one thing. Intellectual dishonesty is another when it comes to creating and establishing in the brain and teaching one how to construct with words, using the imagination in that sense of developing sentences, paragraphs, or doing actual research. Therein lies, to me, where the abuse of that technology I have seen, and where individuals have done that. And again, we're trying to educate these kids on those processes, how to do that research on their own, and not become reliant on a search engine to do it for them. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from. I want to back up a little bit in regards to the health part of it, or even the elementary portion. It doesn't state or even address in that handbook, if you do a search find, stealing in that document, which its omittance tells me that somebody doesn't think it's wrong. Because if you don't acknowledge it, then... So that might be something I need to look at it again, to Ms. Aspas's point of taking a little bit more time before we sign off on this and not do it blindly. And then the important portion of my questions initially of 2 is to ensure that we don't have a second handbook in the school in somebody's desk saying, well, this is mine, and they use that as to say, well, this is the one I've constructed and it's in line with the one that the district gave us. And so that's, again, is to ensure that, that's why I asked the question, is if this is the document that we're going to sign off on for all elementary schools, then they use this specifically. And there are no secondary handbooks in the desk saying non-negotiables across them. And then that being used for the staff or the students or the employees in that building. So if there's one, there's one. Thank you.
Agreed, and I agree with your point. If there's several issues that you still have and others have, there's no point in not waiting. We don't need to have it. It will be for the next school year, but you know, we can revisit it in June and withdraw it from Tuesday's adoption.
Oh, absolutely. I think it needs to go through, again, because I went through the elementary section and I found just these alone. That would be questionable. And if they're in there in the elementary, there's got to be something in the high school and the junior high as well.
And then if that student from last year wanted to look at this cheating, and cheating during testing will be disciplined more severely. Doesn't state in there anywhere that if they're a graduate, then they cannot walk.
Or the repercussions of.
So, you know, there's things that are occurring, and just as President Haskell shared about the cell phone as well, is a student with their personal cell phone, are they, if they don't open it, or if they don't use a code to open it, then are they subjected to discipline, suspension? Where does it state that? Or is that somebody's interpretation? So we really need to look at these things. Board Attorney Chappelle, are you on?
Yes, Board Vice President, I'm here.
So what's your thoughts on this? Have you been listening? And,
I have been, yes.
okay.
I haven't actually seen the entire policies, and so I don't know what the process was to draft them. The questions you all are raising indicate that there are some concerns about them. So I would agree with what you guys are saying, that some more review and analysis needs to be undertaken. And if our policy does in fact not require parental consent with respect to President Montoya's questions, I know there is some case law on that, so I think it would be helpful to look at that.
Okay, and so I guess we should just stop here and instead of trying to, because we're just going to keep finding things. And so thank you, Dr. White.
Madam Vice President,
Go ahead.
and again, taking into consideration your recommendation of pulling it off of the consent agenda for Tuesday as well.
Did you get that, Sharon?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
I guess, just real quick for myself, how is this proposed policy different than the one that's already in place? I mean, is it drastically different? Are there any substantial changes or deviations?
No. Just a few changes, but everything pretty much has remained the same like the past years.
All right, so the bottom line is if we don't approve it, then we still stick with the current policy. Okay.
Board President, Board Vice President, is there a way for staff to let us know what was changed? Not necessarily today, but that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Okay, we'll go on to, thank you, Dr. White. We'll go on to item I, dual credit matrix, school year 24-25 by Dr. Karina White.
So I'll be presenting again, and this is pertaining to dual credit. Our dual credit program has a lot of courses that we have partnership with San Juan College. And one of the concerns, or even I'm going to say, as a proposal that came from our college career readiness coordinators and our high school counselors, was to have something in place, as a document, a hard copy document that would outline we're calling it the dual credit matrix, but what it is the core equivalencies. So like for English, we offer English 3 and 4. So if a student was to take some dual credit classes, which we offer composition 1 and 2, then we would like to also consider those courses to take care of their English 3 and 4 credit. That's, as far as the graduation requirement goes. And then if you look through each component, you have math, you have social studies also outlined. We don't really have, like I said, something like this in place to even share with our students to know that this is, what they can be looking at. And that way it gives them that pathway of understanding how their dual credit courses work towards getting a college credit as well.
Question.
Go ahead.
So Ms. White, this is again in conjunction with San Juan College on the use of the language and accepting both from the high school and the college themselves understanding that reciprocation?
Yes.
Okay.
So this outline would even be helpful when it comes to having that discussion with our students when they start taking some dual credit classes.
How many students do we have in there?
It varies by school site, but we have, I'm gonna say, I don't have the exact number, but it's been varying like every semester. And I think our largest enrollment comes from Kirtland Central High and Sherbrooke High School.
Do you know the numbers, Venturina?
Vice President, as Dr. White indicated, it varies in different schools and by semester, but we can get back to you and get those exact numbers. But again, those SJC courses, and there are also Navajo Technical University, ENMU, and then I believe there's American Indian Institute of American Indian Arts down in Santa Fe. That's right, Dr. White, correct?
Yes, but this is more the focus with the four. We do have additional dual credit courses.
Let me find quickly if I can do it now, and then I'll get back to you.
Well, I mean, I just, why does it fluctuate? Why not the same number of students?
Can I answer that?
What I learned is part of the reason is like the interest, and then plus courses of, I'm going to say some of our school sites actually have the teachers become the adjunct faculty, I'm going to put it that way, to San Juan College. So those, I think, I'm going to say, have a little bit more advantage over some of the other classes that are online, where the teacher is at San Juan and just trying to, work through the classes online.
And in addition to that, most of those students taking the dual credit are the ones pursuing their associate degrees with San Juan. So it really varies on the pathway of the students, whether they're going towards their college plan, and especially what was written in their next step plan through their guidance counselor and their advisors as well. So it really varies on what courses they want to take or pursue.
Because looking at this, I don't know if the students are showing this matrix here. One always tends to think that the college courses are hard, but putting it in this type of layout, I think their student, it looks achievable. And the prerequisite 2.6, what is that?
That's the GPA. So that's equivalent to like a C.
Okay. Yeah, this is good. And that's why I'm wondering why does it fluctuate? It seems like more would take advantage. Any other questions, comments, board members?
I have none.
I don't have any, thank you.
President Haskell?
I don't have anything either, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. White.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on item J, textbook adoption for PE, health, computer science, and career tech education by Dr. White.
Hello again. I'll be presenting on our textbook adoption. The cycle for this year is in all these areas. So we're up for adoption for physical education and health education for grades K through 12. We also have computer science K through 12. Then we have career and technical education for 7th through 12th. Go ahead, Sharon, go to the next slide. This is the textbook adoption process that we have followed. So from the New Mexico PED, they usually provide a vendor list. And on that, from that vendor list, they identify which ones they have considered as, I'm gonna say, approval for adoption. So our first task would be to contact those vendors that are on that list. And then we request for samples, we request for presentations to take place. And then if you follow the arrows here, as part of the presentations, we provide a textbook rubric, and they'll have some questions that would be more for the students from the perspective of the teacher, and then also teacher questions from the teacher perspective. And those questions are actually coming from New Mexico PED. And that's how they complete their rubric. And we consider those as teacher feedback as how they're making their selections. We also have provided public review where we've given the community, parents, and even other staff of CCSD the opportunity to review some of these samples, even to attend the presentations, and then also, to receive feedback. We use the same textbook rubric with them. After collecting the feedback, so it's really a rating. The points are added up, and that determines what each, I'm gonna say, school site or even teacher has determined. And that's where we have our selection of what materials or textbooks that we're looking at. And that's the process that we took, and now we're presenting it to the board for approval. So after approval, that's where we're gonna determine, going back, contacting the vendors, and then requesting for quotes, because we have to consider how many schools, and even if we have to consider any licenses, if it's a digital program, number of textbooks, the cost is what we would be requesting for. And I just want you to know that with the selection that I'm going to present, this information has been shared with principals, have been shared with directors, and even teachers. So they're fully aware with what the results are. So go ahead, Sharon. We have worked with 9 vendors, and the first vendor that I'm going to talk about is for physical education. So kindergarten through high school, as you see here. The vendor name is Gopher Sport, and some of you may have heard about this curriculum or program before, and it's called the Spark program. I have the vendor here. If you have any questions for them, they're willing to answer any questions regarding this. And I do have the samples in the back room, right when you enter the room there. But this is available through all grades, and this is what was selected. For health education, we, K through 6, we have the digital curriculum, which is called the Quaver Ed. Quaver Ed had part 1 as health, and they have part 2 for PE. But the K through 6 health teachers were more in favor of the health part. So that's what they chose. And this was a New Mexico adopted curriculum that they approved. For middle school, they chose McGraw-Hill Glencoe called Teen Health. This is not a New Mexico adopted material. However, we found out that through the information of, remember I said there's usually a list of what's adopted and what's being approved. We found out that there was nothing for middle school. So we do have that option as well to consider if there is, nothing on the adoption list that our teachers are interested in, making their own selection from another vendor. And that's what happened here with selecting McGraw-Hill for Glencoe. So we do have, like I said, Quaver Ed and McGraw-Hill. If there are any questions that are coming up. Okay, go ahead. For high school health education, they chose Solvus Learning. And this is what they selected. And again, let's see, Solvus Learning, this was a New Mexico adopted material. It was approved. Go ahead to the next slide, Sharon. For computer science, we have K5. We had a choice between 2. One is called Ellipsis Education, and this one is called Skillstruct. We have 3 schools who chose Skillstruct, and it's more what they call like a lunch pad. And then the way this platform or the program is set up is more based around like coding, which we're promoting, that computer science education for all our grade levels, K through 12. And then for middle school, they chose 2 programs, and one school would like to go with Ellipsis Education, and it provides like computer science applications, which is also including coding, and it takes them through different levels. And then the extra is ED dynamic learning, and that's for middle school coding as well. The E-Dynamics is not New Mexico had adopted. It's not on the list, but this is something that would be also a supplement to middle school coding. And we do offer middle school coding at Kirtland Middle School. Unfortunately, there was no selection made for high school. We've had a long-term sub at Newcomb High School for the school year, and I did my best working with the principal there to see if he, would be able to make any selection. And I can understand that it would be, thing that would make a bit more, I would say, convenient, and even for the teacher, if they had a certified teacher there, to be able to provide their feedback, because they're the ones that are teaching. So it might be something we will have to revisit, later on. And then at Shabbat High School, if you may not know, we do have our teacher there from there who is retiring. So she felt the same, that, whoever would be coming on as a new computer science teacher, just leave it, up to that teacher to decide what would work best. And then for high school, they already have some of the students going to Von Wilson. So that's a little bit more, I think, of what they decided to go with. So that's why I don't have any selection for high school computer science at the moment. The last area is career and technical education. We have family and consumer science, which there's a lot of different, there are several different, I'm going to say, course titles that fall under this. So with the CVE multimedia that they chose, I believe this is what they've been using before in the past years, and it has been working very well for them, and they would like to keep it. There are certain courses that Tech did approve, but not like everything of what the courses that we offer would fall under that. But like I said, it goes back to what, if we can't find something that is from the approved list, then we can always consider another vendor. So they decided on the continuation of using this CEB multimedia, and it's a digital platform. Business and marketing, again, we have multiple, titles. They've also been using CEB multimedia in the past years. The same thing, there are certain titles that have been approved, and then some that weren't, but they would still like to consider using this platform. We do have an accounting program at Shabbat High School, and this teacher would like to consider using Cengage Learning, and he really liked the program because it's both digital and print. So that is more like specific to Shabbat High School, and again, specific to accounting. The last one, actually, we have 3 more to go over. Agriculture, we have ag at all 3 high schools, Newcomb High School, Shabbat High School, and Kirtland Central High. They also are familiar with and have been using CEB multimedia before, and they would like to continue using that. We have a welding program only at Newcomb High School, and we learned that there's a great need for textbooks, curriculum materials, and this is what I sat down with the principal and his assistant principal, and this is what was chosen. It's through Savvas Learning, and they're calling it the Core Plus Welding Level 1, and the curriculum is based on what they call the NCCER standards. And then the next one is the wood shop. We do have high schools teaching wood shop 1 to 4, but they would like to consider, staying with what they already have. And the one school or grade level 7 through 8, is one area that they really need the curriculum. And this is at Tebet Middle School. So this is what the teacher chose with Savvas Learning, and these are different areas of what he felt were, important for the students to learn as through, progressing through their wood shop classes. So again, I want to share that we do have the vendors waiting if you have any specific questions on any of the materials. And I wish I, was able to share some of the digital platform because we, some of them were very selective and we don't have, we weren't able to have some of that available, especially if they're in digital. But again, only a few of the career technical education samples are provided also at that table where the health and PE textbooks are set up. So that concludes my presentation with the textbook adoption. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Dr. White? Vice President Aspis has stepped out and asked me to continue. Thank you, Dr. White, for that presentation. If there are no questions,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Haskey. Mr. Montoya?
I have none.
Mr. Soul? We'll move on then to item K, Title III Framework by Dr. Luisa Lopez and Cheryl Benali.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I believe Dr. Begay will be speaking on behalf. I am on travel, so thank you, Dr. Begay.
Yat a shikada shidana, Shaya bit ahnin shlido, Tatnasani bashes chin, Kitlachini dasha chedashe dashanala, Ado bilingual multicultural education coordinator, A Shananish Inson. Good evening, board president, board vice president, board secretary, board members, superintendents, Mr. Carlson, Mr. Deswood, all the relatives and colleagues and community listening in. I'm going to be presenting the Title III report this evening on behalf of Ms. Cheryl Benali. Next slide. The purpose for this report is really to share some updates and data in terms of how Title III is a federally funded grant, and it's dispersed through the state. And it's specific only to support English language development. That's the only language that it supports. And it's part of the State Bilingual Multicultural Education grant. Next slide. So what I'll be sharing with you this evening are the timelines and data, and then some examples of the projects that are Title III BME under the English Learners component have been implementing and completing. Next slide. So this right here is just to share the timeline for projects in terms of how the BME English language learner and the Title III team have been implementing projects and initiatives. So as you can see, back in July last summer, they started putting this in place specifically for our new English language development instructional coach. And so this part of the timeline shows all the initiatives that have been put in place throughout the school year. Next slide. And then specifically for the Title III timeline, it specifically, again, only supports English language development. It doesn't support bilingual, Navajo, or Spanish. It's only pertinent to English language development. Because of that, the following information will be based on that. Next slide. So the timeline for the BMEP grant is also part of the Title III grant. And the BMEP grant supports the 16 schools that are part of this district. And this grant asks for the EL program of each school, and each school has to provide data and information to show what each school is doing with their BME and their Title III in terms of supporting English learners. So this timeline just shares that process of what needs to happen and what needs to be completed and submitted by the time Ms. Benali's team submits the grant in May. Next slide. This next information is specific to our English language development instructional coach. Ms. March de Ramos is who our ELD instructional coach is. So she really provides support for our teachers, specifically teachers who are part of the BMEP in terms of those that are like in self-contained classrooms at the K5, K6 level, because part of the BMEP is that we're required to have our teachers be TESOL endorsed or they have a waiver. And those are the teachers who have our identify English learners in their classrooms. And then with the secondary levels, those are based on the ELA or reading content area. So Ms. de Ramos has really provided that support for our teachers, and she does have a schedule visiting all the schools. And not only that, she's also supporting the new Filipino teachers that have been arriving to the district. Next slide. So her main goal really is to ensure that the support for the teachers comes in different ways, whether it's providing professional development or for the specific teacher in terms of showing them and sharing strategies and sharing how to utilize our EL platform called Elevations. The other part is that schools ask for her to train their staff in terms of the EL identification process, how to use Access, and the scores in terms of class or school improvement. So that's what she has been doing. And a big part of this also includes developing English learner plans at each school. Next slide. Starting this school year in semester 1, which is August through January, she did visit 21 schools and she provided 12 trainings. One of her feedback is that one high school and one elementary were not trained. One high school, the reason why was that there wasn't enough time, and that was at our alternative high school. They're the only school that has a different schedule, so it was challenging for her to try to get to those students in that first semester. And then the elementary, we had a turnover or change in leadership, and the first leadership wanted to train her own teachers. However, with the new leadership in this semester, that new building principal did ask of her to train her school, so she was able to complete the trainings for all the schools. As you can see, for semester 2, it does show how many schools she visited and the number of trainings that she did. Elevations is our EL platform, and so we're continuously training our schools and even administrators in terms of using that as a data resource tool for their PLCs or school improvement plans too. Next slide. So these are just some of the feedback that came from the teachers that Mr. Ramos has supported, this administration from each school too. And you can read some of those comments. Next slide. And I guess that's the end of this slide, and I stand for questions. Thank you.
Questions? Dr. Begay, how does this align, or does this align directly with the dual language programs, or is it just all, is it a separate?
It's not necessarily aligned, but the dual language program is part of the State Bilingual Multicultural Education Program, the BMEP. And if you can picture the BMEP as an overall arching umbrella, it has two components underneath. You have the language programs, and then you have your EL component. So the information that I'm providing is on this part of the EL part, and then the dual language is on this part. However, it all utilizes each other because we do have English learners in our dual language program.
Okay, and that was the point of the question, to know that that does occur and how they mesh together actually to satisfy those programs.
Yes.
And in that same regards, the relationship to Yazi Martinez and satisfying the law in that respects as well for that. Does that speak directly to that as well?
Yes, because under the Yazi Martinez lawsuit, it does identify the 4 students in the lawsuit, which are Native American students, English learners, students with disabilities, and students from low socioeconomic status. And basically all of them, all 4 identified at-risk students, are part of these programs.
Because as we know, one affects the other, correct?
Yes.
And that's one thing that a lot of people don't fully understand when it comes to and why those programs are justified and need to be implemented because of the failing of the state of New Mexico.
Yes, and if I may add, Board Member Montoya, when we do provide the trainings, whether it's at the administrator level with the leadership pathways, or the EL trainings, or the Yazi Martinez trainings in itself, it's really to provide updates and information for all staff in the district to ensure that they know of the updates or what was what were the rulings in that lawsuit. So in essence, we're providing that the compliance part of it through the PDs and having Mr. Ramos support the teachers. And
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely, and you're stepping right up to my doorway in respects to my response that's coming up next, and it is absolutely imperative that that occurs, and the people that are leading those programs in those buildings fully understand the responsibility and the application of the law for that responsibility to the students that they're serving.
Yes.
And it would be a great disservice and, quite frankly, detrimental to the growth of the students if that building leader doesn't fully understand the programs or tries to diminish the programs purposely or indirectly to diminish them. And not champion, because that's what we should be doing, to try to increase those numbers and to really stand behind those programs as well. So one of the things, and I know you've heard the board say this time and time again in regards to speaking about Yazzie Martinez, but I've thought about this for a while, and I know we throw it out there, and I've asked you the question, but I wonder how many people fully understand how we got to where we are, or even understand the timeline, Dr. Begay, of how that law came to be and how Yazzie Martinez became a lawsuit. And that goes all the way back to August of 2012, where MALDEF, which is the New Mexico Latino Education Task Force, announced an investigation. And that specifically had to do for students of color. And they were going to sue the state for allegations that were violating low-income and English language learners' students' rights to equitable and sufficient education. And then from there, it goes into September 2012 and March 19th of 2014, where the New Mexico Center of Law and Poverty filed a lawsuit in the 11th Judicial Court in Gallup-McKinley County, again, on behalf of students, again, including Native Americans and Latinos, for public funding and at-risk students. So all of these things are meshed together. And it wasn't until June 10th of 2014 that MALDEF amended it to include special education. But really the crux of it was the service to the low income that you've been talking about. And again, understanding that, recognizing that the federal responsibility to language and the funding that they apply for and that they give for that is something that we need to take very, very seriously, especially with these elementary students, to help build and develop that competency on both sides, or all three, if that was the case, if that's how many you were servicing. For us, it's Spanish and then Navajo, and some other communities, it's other languages. So I appreciate what you guys do and the information that you give and the updates that you do, because it does matter. And I just wanted to kind of lend that, because I know some people probably don't fully understand how it came to be. So thank you.
So you're welcome.
Okay, I'm like waiting for more questions. But thank you. Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the board for Dr. Benali?
No, I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment, and I think that's something the board has been well aware of, is the Yazzie Martinez and the disparity, especially when we're in a school district of 90% Navajo. We have, I think it's our charge and our responsibility to really support these programs. And I know I speak for myself and also the board when I say that this is a huge thing that we really look at. So I appreciate all the work. Thank you, Cheryl and Dr. Begay.
Mr. Scholl? Any further comments, Mr. Martinez?
No, I don't have any comments or questions. Thank you. Just thank you for all the work that you do.
Okay, I'll turn the time back over to.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Benali.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did we adopt or say yes to the school books, the textbooks?
Well, if we decide to, if I may, Vice President, again, that just report, and obviously if we adopt it, it won't be until Tuesday anyway, so. And again, that's a consideration if you need more time to look at them. But it certainly comes with the understanding of the teachers of utilizing them. And Superintendent, is that your recommendation?
That's my recommendation.
Moving on to item L, CCSD proposal, request for obsolete equipment by Candace Thompson and Sheba Joe.
Good evening, Board President Husky, Vice President Aspis, Secretary Wells, Board Member Montoya, and Board Member So, Superintendent Carlson. Tonight, Sheba Joe and I bring forward to you a disposal list of items that are outdated, unsafe, obsolete, or broke that we need to remove from our inventory. And after approval, of course, from the board and the state, we would like to put this, what can be sold, on our public surplus website, and what needs to be disposed of due to being unsafe, dispose of it properly.
One question before you proceed. If it can't be sold and the state and the board approve the removal of it, how will you dispose of it?
If it's metal, we'll scrap it to metal scrap yards. And if it's plastics or woods, we'll dispose of it through the landfill.
Thank you. Good, proceed.
I have a comment before you go any further.
Go ahead.
So, Ms. Gonzalez, in this disposal of property, and so if metal is, what was the term you used? Scrap.
Recycle.
Yeah. So obviously they get money. So how do you count that into your?
So it just comes back in as
Your
revenue.
ledger.
It comes back as revenue into the general ledger, and we just post
So
that.
can we see that when that happens? Can we see that report?
Do you know, have you guys done it recently, or? Okay, I'd have to ask Sandy Ration to search for that with you, and then we could get that.
In line with that, is that fair market value for that scrap? Or is that at a reduced cost just to get it off our hands? So we're not getting a premium price for our metal?
Whatever value scrap gives us for it.
Oh, okay.
And,
So that would be,
by weight.
that would be the market value for whatever the weight is, okay.
You may proceed.
Okay. There's several items on the list. We'll just go through all the pages. I think there's 4.5 pages. We have a fun center canopy that came from Career Prep Playground. We have Kirtland High School freezer cooler that came out. District-wide unassigned walk-in cooler freezers for Najoni, Shiprock High, Eva B, Kirtland Middle School, Kirtland Elementary School, Najoni Elementary Playground Canopy, district-wide, the fire alarm system at the Phil Thomas and Brooke Isham, the old fire alarm systems that came out of those two buildings. Kirtland High School VOAG Farm Building. We cleaned up the yard and replaced fencing there. Kirtland Middle School lighting and fixtures. Kirtland High School track and field. We're repairing and resurfacing that track currently.
Got a question.
Yes.
The material that they pull off the track, that,
The rubber.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
they used to call it tartan. I don't know what they call it now. Do they recycle that?
They dispose of it. I'm
Really?
not sure. It's a urethane,
Mhm.
and when you rip it off the track, it just comes up in big rolls.
Oh, okay.
You can actually go up there right now and see it all piled up on the site right now as they're milling the asphalt.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Kirtland Business Office, the new rooftop units that were replaced, disposing of the old units that we removed. District-wide outdoor athletic field lighting. This is replacing all the field lighting on the football fields. Kirtland High School track and field, they're also repairing and resurfacing that track. A Bell and Gossett center field pump, we have 2 of those. Teledyne Lars Mighty Therm hot water boilers, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. Kirtland High School air handling unit number 15 that came off in the new HVAC project that was done several years ago. A Windsor Chariot floor machine, a Unisource buffer, floor buffer, a Speed Air 80-gallon industrial air compressor, a Hotsy stationary pressure washer, Coates tire changing machine, Time Clock Plus time clock machine, miscellaneous fitness and lifting equipment, miscellaneous fitness bike, a NordiTrack, fitness NordiTrack elliptical machine, a fitness Bowflex Sport, a drum set, miscellaneous fitness all-in-one gym, a reverse back extension, just all, that's a fitness equipment, a 20-inch auto scrubber, a buffer, a BFH half rack with plate, 2 of those are fitness machines. Fitness lifting equipment, a tricep pull down, a half rack with platform, another fitness machine, a Hotsy detergent pressure washer, another Hotsy pressure washer in a wash bay, Cadwell fuel tank manager, that was upgraded, a hydro restroom cleaning machine, another buffing machine, a IBM printer, another fitness lifting equipment, a lat pull down, 2 lat pull downs, 3 lat pull downs, sorry, an ice machine, a 30-pound ice machine, another reverse back extension hip machine, a hip selector and neck machine, an HP color printer, a Cushman frontline mower, 2 of those. A Toro top dresser seed, sand and seed spreader attachment. A Toro top dresser, sand and seed spreader attachment. A Canon video camera, cart storage for laptops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those. An Earthwalk mobile 30 charging cart. There's another one. An HP charging cart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 HP charging carts. A Tandberg stand-only video conference. A Sunshine greenhouse. 8x16, and then another Sunshine greenhouse, 8x16. An HP printer, commercial laser jet, a live broadcast media cart, TV, VCR, and another Tandberg teleconferencing equipment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. And that's our list. That's it. That's it this time around. As you can see, some of these things have been removed several years, and Shiva's doing a great job just making sure we're getting our inventory square and all our assets.
She's probably tired of looking out there and seeing all that junk.
Yeah, but we're selling, we've got the public surplus going, and people are aware to start looking for some of these things on that public surplus site.
Very good.
Okay?
Any questions from the board?
I have none.
I don't have any questions either.
Nope, no questions. It's all in the list.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. Drive safe. Item M, Utilities Comparison Report, April 2024.
Good evening, members of the board. Let me see if I can read all this. I'm going to try and read off the papers because I can't hardly read that.
I agree.
So hopefully you guys have it open. So I would look just at the very bottom line rather than looking at all the different pages, just because all the different funds from the past paid for different things. But when we look at the expenditures for the grand total, as you see it from year to year, we just continue increasing, and hopefully, you know, things will eventually start to settle down. But if you look right now at FY 23-24, we're at 5.34 million, whereas last year it was 4.9. So it just keeps, you know, increasing and increasing. So hopefully things will slowly get back to normal, and we can see, you know, trends slowing at least, maybe, hopefully. But that's it for that report for utilities comparison. And if you stand for any questions or move on to the next one.
Any questions before we move on? Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll move to item N, POs over 60,000 and then 3,500 to 10K. So in your packet, you had the POs over 60,000. There's 411,645 for prestigious paving for construction. And then there's another one for 433,564 as well. And those are the school track and the Shiprock track. Then we have information technology for the redesign group for servers for the district, 180,000. And then Chalmers Ford ICO 2024 Expedition. And then transportation Roberts Truck Center, 130,000 for a Type C 71 passenger bus. And that's it for the POs over 60,000. And then if we look at the small purchases for 3,500 to 10,000, there's some for curriculum and instruction, robotics, supplies and materials in the amount of 6,634. District athletics, meals and hotels for the SHS powerlifting tournament, 3,600. District athletics, the rings b-ball, I don't know what that is exactly, but 5,145. Food services has kitchen repair and supplies for 5,000. ICO has a couple, one for 5,000 for registration students unity conference, and then parental cost fees. Then there's Kirtland High School. There's practice tests for 3,800 to NCS Pearson, and Kirtland Middle School 7,225.56 for science kits, and 5,478 for a greenhouse. Then there's several to maintenance. They're the Border States Electric, West States Supplies, Esco Pipe, O'Reilly Automotive, Salmons, the Bank of America for Lowe's and Home Depot, 1,000 bulbs for light fixtures, heating and plumbing in the Bank of America card, and Train US for parts, motors, filing rings, to try and get them through the end of the school year. And then Nosh Chitty Elementary has 2 for apparel for security and safety reasons, and then PD for teachers for Great Minds. Oho Elementary had Fat Brain toys for classroom supplies. Student Support Services has 3 for advertising experts, and Bank of America credit card for lodging for the Ataxia Summer Symposium, and then Pearson Assessment for forms and booklets, and then 3,500 for transportation for minor repairs on the lifts for the buses, and San Juan Quality Parts for parts to and from buses. And then TBA has 8,500 for STEM on-site presentation. So that covers all the 3,500 to 10K purchases. So I stand for any questions on those, or if you want me to move on to the next items.
Any questions from the board?
I have none.
I don't have any, thank you.
Ms. Haskey?
I don't have any questions.
She said she did.
She doesn't have any.
So the next reports are the, do you want me to just give you a summary of everything? I mean, it's the same stuff over and over again. I'll just give you a real quick summary. It looks like this.
Thank you.
Basically, in accounts payable for operational, we cut checks in the amount of $6,616,222.10, and activities $44,917.44. In outstanding checks, we have $1,119,000, and activities $8,730. In general funds, the breakout for the expenditures is $4,166,338, and then grants $3,291,538, and capital outlay and debt services 6.9. In revenue for the period, we received $6 million in the 11th through 23 funds, and in the grants, $724,000. And then capital outlay and debt services, $36,598.02. And then the last was expenditures of JOM of $13,069. And then that would cover all of O.
Got a question?
Mhm.
That you just read off, can you attach that when you do this? So
Yes.
we can look at that, and then if we
Have
feel the need to
questions?
yeah, then we can detail.
Can go the detail. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can ask Mary to do that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Sure. I didn't know she didn't give you this part. You don't see it?
No, I don't see what
Maybe
would
you
it be
don't.
listed under.
Okay, she might just give it to me as a,
Yeah, I see all
As
the
a-
listings, but I don't see the
as a
listings
cheat
specific
sheet.
for
Okay.
that, so.
I can have her do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And then if we want, I don't know if you want, I heard there was like 40 some bars. I don't know if you guys want to go one by one on those. I'm thinking not, but if you guys want to scroll through those really quickly, I'll just go back over what's pretty much going on right at the moment. If anything has an M at the end, that's a maintenance bar. And basically what it is we're just trying to move money within the function so that we can clean it up and yeah, it's just,
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
we don't need to go through all of those
Okay.
item by item.
okay, good.
However you can do it
Okay.
most expeditiously.
Yes.
We would appreciate it.
Yes, so the only ones that you will see is we're starting to tie up the GL with the audit. And so there's a couple in there that are decreases and increases that we're truing back up to the audited cash with the audit. So you'll see those in there, and it states that at the very bottom. But other than that, you guys have them all, and it's this big old stack. So if you guys had any questions or have any questions, I'll just let these stand as they've been presented. They're in your packet, and we can move forward.
Whatever is necessary for you
Mhm.
in order to meet the standard, meet the requirement.
Why don't I just read the number and what type of bar it is, and we'll
Okay.
just go through that. Is that
Sounds
okay?
good.
Okay.
Are you in agreement with that, Mr. Montoya?
Absolutely. You can ask the other two as well.
And then in the
Miss-
future, what
Miss
I'll,
Ha- Hang on just a minute. Ms. Haskey, are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
and in the future, what I'll do is I'll ask.
Mr.
more.
So?
Oh,
Mr. So, are you in agreement with that as well?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry,
Gonzalez,
keep
go ahead.
interrupting. I'm looking down, not paying attention, trying to see if I have them all. So in the future, what I'll do is I'll ask them to give us a list of all of them, and you can just kind of have a basic idea of what they're for. And we'll just go off that sheet and attach them and list them. So we have 155 maintenance, it's 11,000 for transfers for the month of April. 164 maintenance operational transfers for the month of April. 165 maintenance additional operational transfers to align with OBMS. 175 a decrease. This is the one that we're tying back the audited cash. Where there 39 million. This one's the 39 million that was supposed to be in 15-100. So we'll go ahead and we're moving that into the right fund, into impact aid. 174I is 12,000 teacherage, using just updating the budget with the audited cash, increase of 135,046. 156 maintenance is student transportation, and it's transfers for the month of April. 177I is to adjust with the audited cash. That's 186,914 for 15,200 local revenue operation. Then maintenance bar 157 for food services, just cleaning up. 178 decrease, 1,424,588 to adjust to the audited cash in food services. 22,000 athletics, it's a maintenance bar 158, just aligning for the month of April. 22,000 athletics, bar number 179I, it's 3,172, increasing to adjust the audited cash. 159M is aligning the OBMS with iVisions, so that's a maintenance bar for 23 function. A decrease in the 23 function, bar number 180D, and it's to align the audited cash. It's a decrease of $112,515. Bar number 147M is 24109, Idea B Preschool. It's just aligning the budget with visions. Bar number 148, Maintenance, 24153, English Language Acquisition, and that one is just aligning budget with visions. 149M, 24153, English Language Acquisition. It's another alignment of the 1000 function. 150M, it's 24176, and it is Carl Perkins, just budget alignment. 146T, it's a transfer between functions, and it's Title I Comprehensive Support. 145T, 24330, it's the ARP, budget transfer for negative function cleanup. 152M, 24349, IDEA American Rescue Plan Act, it's just a maintenance budget adjustment. T is 24330, it's a transfer to cover a negative function. 152M, 24349, IDEA American Rescue Act, it's just a budget alignment. 181D, it's 25145, Impact Aid Special Education, aligning the audited cash, so it's a decrease of $123,924. 160M is 25147, Impact Aid Indian Education. It's just aligning the general ledger. 161M, 25147, Impact Aid Indian Education, aligning OBMS with iVisions again for the month of April. 182D, it's a decrease of $812,061 in 25147 Impact Aid Indian Education to adjust for the audited cash. 166I, it's Medicaid 25153. It's an increase to tie back to the audited cash of $1,163,855. 167 is a decrease from Indian Ed Formula Grant. It's a decrease of $44,526, adjusting to the audited cash. 168I, it's 25201 Navajo Nations, increase to the audited cash of $21,675. Number 154I, it's increase of $19,750 for 26143 Save the Children. It's additional funds that were awarded for summer school programs. Taste of Kinder and Summer Boost in the 3 Save the Children community schools. 169I, 27109. It's an increase to the audited cash of $114,291. 144T is a transfer for community schools planning grants to clean up any negatives. 143T, it's a transfer for bilingual multi-educational laws. It's a transfer to clean up the negatives in the 22 function. 130IB, it's an initial budget. It's flow-through funding initiative for FY24. It's career technical innovation, and that amount is $59,000. 153IB, it's also $59,000, $27,589 CTE, new award. Then 170I, 28,189. It's an increase of $119,892 to readjust for the audited cash. 171I, it's $8,342 for 28,190 grads to budget the adjusted cash. For the audited cash. 183I, it's a $113,468 increase of adjusting the audited cash for the 31,100 Geo Bond building. 187I is $572,509. is to adjust the budget to match the audited cash as well. That's 31,200 public school capital outlay. 184 IB, it's 366,949. It's a adjusting the audited cash for 31,500 special capital outlay federal. 188I, it's an increase for the audited cash of 528,563 for Fund 31701 SB9. 162M, it's a maintenance bar in 31703 SB9, trying to align the budget back with visions. There's a decrease of $1 to adjust the budget to the audited cash in 31703. And then 163M, it is a maintenance bar, 41,000 GO debt services. It's just aligning the budget with transfers for the month of April. And then I believe this is the last one. 186I is a adjustment to match cash from the audit. It's 477,364, fund 41,000 GO bond debt services. And that concludes all of the budget adjustments.
I think we've become an auctioneer.
I do.
I want to commend you. That is the most expeditious report we have ever heard
I know everybody's like, oh.
since I've been on the board.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions from any board members?
I have none.
I don't have any. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam President, do you have any? Ms. Haskey? Item Q, budget submission to PED and special school board meeting, board action. Are we supposed to get another report on that?
I don't know if they're just gonna go for Ms. Chappelle according to that.
Oh, she's coming back.
Coming back. That's what I was trying to remember.
Board member, Secretary Wells, the purpose of this report is that we had a great deal of this report in special meeting. And so pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, we just want to make sure the public has a chance to have it in the regular meeting as well.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So, just so the public knows, what you have in your packet is a large stapled packet. That's the whole budget in detail. Once we upload it and send it in, we won't go over it in detail, but just for your information, that's what it looks like when we finally submit. And it just goes fund after fund after fund, and so that's in there. But we'll start off with, for the public and everything else, everybody else is, good evening, thank you again. So we had the budget submission this morning at 8 o'clock. We actually submitted yesterday at about 5 minutes before 6. So we made the budget submission on time. So I heard this was the first time in a long time. So I was really proud of the team, departments, everybody we pulled together. We were able to get it together. Of course, now it's going through review. We'll be making changes as PED reviews and sees all of that, but we at least made the submission on time. So we're good with that. Then part of the issues that we had this year was there's a lot of shortfalls in a lot of departments. A lot of it comes from, ESSERS is going away, having to pick up a lot of those costs. And then as raises came, as they go through and the raises happen and occur throughout, it makes it very difficult for the other funding sources to continue to support. And that's where we have to really be careful and start looking at the whole overall picture of the district and not looking at everything, individually, because every time we hire somebody in a grant, it has to eventually come back and affect the operational in some shape or form. So we really need to be careful with all of that so that we can try and make a good balance and make sure that we're seeing what's happening from year to year. Don't get me wrong, I love grants, I love getting new money, but a lot of times they come with, matches, stipulations, they run out in 3 years, you have to pick them up. And if you're not really careful, that could become a problem. So we had some of those little shortfalls, impact aid, special ed, impact aid, Indian ed, food services, we're seeing that, those have some shortages. We're looking at having to pick up 3 positions from Title VI, 3 positions possibly from Title I. And then also we're looking at whatever construction wasn't completed in this year rolls into next year, so we need to finish getting that stuff paid off. One of the good things still is, right now we're still holding at about $3 million. That'll be my next step is in ESSERS, so that we can try and finish spending it. We're gonna look through the operational and the impact aid budget, identify what things are allowable that can go in those funds so that they can reduce the cost and the expenditures in those 2 funds and at least utilize the remaining balance of that other fund. So that's what we looked at in the budget process. Now, the other thing is we're having to look at reduction in staff through attrition. We're meeting to review and look at vacancies and looking at internal hiring except hard to fill and places with licensure. And so we'll be looking at that continuously for the next year, really looking at what that's going to look like and how it can help out. And the reason is the district has impact aid that they receive now, and it's split in its own fund. And we also have SEG, which is the State Equalization Guarantee. And right now, the district is spending just as much as what we're getting. And so we're really trying to pull that back so that we're...
I have a question. And I wish the superintendent was here. And it's not necessarily, I guess, an in general question regarding filling those positions from within. And that's to ensure that the people that are filling those positions are qualified for the positions, have the credentials for the positions, and you're not just playing a shell game and putting people in a void.
Yeah, no, we look at licensure. We have to do that because when the review comes at 40th day and 80th and all that, we get a review from PED. If they don't have the right licensure, it kicks them out. And then we have to, we notify. So we're always watching all of that. So
obviously, and
careful
again,
with that.
some of those are a little bit more litigious than others in respect to what the liability could be. And there's no need in putting ourselves in the district in a position for a lawsuit.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
we're careful with that. And so then, and again, it's all gonna matter on how things play because things are shifting a lot right now as we move through. So it's just a matter of just waiting it. And then, like I said, next year will be a very budget year, I guess, where we'll be really reviewing everything. I'll be looking at every little aspect of where we're spending our money, why we're doing it, and then meeting so we can have a plan. We really need to have a 5-year plan because when you look at what's happening and we're losing students in the district and we've got to size the right size based on students, and that's where we've got to get. So we've got to look at the whole picture, and that's where we'll go. Some of the other concerns, that I see from my side is, of course, we're going to have to look at overtime and stipends and the ESS subs, analyzing their usage, software usage. Are we really utilizing all the things that we buy and to the right, amount? And so those are just things that we really need to look at. Technology is a little bit difficult right now because we switched the platform to Apple. That's kind of costly, and so we also got to look at a rotation now, since they were all bought almost at the same time. Utilities, that's a hard one because that just continues to increase and we have very little control on that. So what do you do in terms of that? And so the district has to get very strategic, has to really think outside of the box and really look at where do we want to go down the road. And so that's where we're moving.
I believe, if I may, to the chair, that something I said 5 years ago, we need to run it like a business. And I know people don't like hearing that, but the revenue that is generated by the students that sit in those chairs and the funding mechanisms that they bring to the district. And like any other good business, if you don't have the revenue coming in,
right,
can't operate.
Right.
You understand that? I mean, that's basic business principles.
Yes. And so with that, there's 4 principles I always like to look at when I build a budget is where's our money come from? And it's students. If we're losing them, why? We have to really work on that and try and figure that out. Then the next thing you have to look at is what's changed over the last period of time, and are we changing with that time? And if we're not, that creates a crisis because then you're not really looking out for future. So that's the next thing we always have to look at is what's changing. The third one is how's our money spent? Really looking at how our money's spent, really getting back to what I call zero-based budgeting, which is, do we really need it? Is it absolutely necessary? Or are we just spending money to spend money? And do we have closets full of things that we might not really, really need? And so that's the third thing. And then the last one is, what impact does our money have? Where do we want to put our money? So with a strategic plan, we would know, where do we want to go and what impact do we want to have? And of course, it's always raising test scores, bringing students back, higher graduation rates, all of those things. And so we have to focus our budget on those. So that will be our focus for the future is how do we get to that?
Superintendent, if I may, certainly, obviously, I think the key word would be student outcomes on those expenditures and where we put that money to invest in student outcomes and how do we best utilize to get the best student outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Right. So then with that, I'll move to that page with all the funds on it, the one front and back. So that is our budget in summary by the total revenues and expenditures. They're of course going to match, but if you look at this sheet, it doesn't subtotal it by whole, but in total, we submitted a budget of $183,978,829. Right now, our budget in the current year is $211,852,807, which is a difference of about $27 million. Part of that big drop is because ESSERS is going away. We had 15 million in there. We're dropping in students, so our numbers are dropping. We don't have yet the actual federal amounts and awards. We're just working off of estimates right at this moment. So we built budgets based on estimates, and we'll see increased bars more than likely coming in because we usually build at about 80 or 90% of the previous year, so of this year. So that should increase, but how much, I don't know yet because we're just in preliminary stages, but that's where that is. And so that represents $183,978,000. Now, just today, we received the transportation one, and it's on here. we got an increase of 24,270. So we'll have to go back in there and budget an additional 24,270. That's not on this sheet, but PED is starting to send the allocations now. So we'll be going in and making adjustments as they send them and go through there. But the way you look at this is all the funds that start with a 1, those are general funds. And if you go down probably about 6 or to the end of those, it gives you a general funds total. It's kind of hard to see, but it's 119,249,000, but it subtotals there. And then you have the 21 funds and 22s and 23s. Those are kind of standalones. It's your food services, your athletics, and your non-instructional. And those pretty much stand alone. So those are running individually at 5,045,000 and 627 or 677. And then if you look at the next set of numbers, the 24s, those are the federal, and those are federal flow through. And in federal flow through, we budgeted 13,961,000. And then the next set are the 25s. And those are actual federal direct grants. So flow through is coming from the feds. The federal direct are coming money that goes straight from the feds to us. So that's the federal direct. And then the 26 are local grants, like the Save the Children and the Indian Health Services. And so we have a total of 338 there. And then your 27s, there's a lot of those. And those are your state flow through grants. And those come from the state. So those are the basically state initiated projects. Then you have the 28s, which are your like state direct grants as well, but they're more like highway department grads, those kinds of things. EC, CD, CYFD. And those state grant totals is 257, 626, I believe. And then after the 28s, we have the 29s, which are the combined state and local grants. And those are usually private direct grants. So they might give us a small grant for a school, and they make you lump it all into the 29s, and then we have to use a project code to decipher who gets it and where it goes, but they all just get lumped. And then after the grand total then of all the 2000s is 40 million, if you look at all of those. And then the 31s, those are your capital project funds, and we budgeted 7.8 million there. And then in Fund 41,000, we have the debt service, and that one is 16,747,000. And that's all the funds that the district has and what's been budgeted right at this moment. And like I said, now between now and June, I think it's 16th or June 20th, all the departments, all the finance people, they will do their reviews and they start sending us kickbacks. You know, they'll open up the fund and then we have to contact them to find out what they want us to change on it or what they see that's different. So between now and middle of June, we'll be adjusting our budgets. So. And then on this next sheet of paper, this one's a percentage by how the budget's broken out. And you'll see the difference is this past year, 109 million was budgeted, but that's because a big portion of that impact aid was budgeted in there, and it really shouldn't have. It should have been budgeted in impact aid by itself. So that's why there's a significant difference between the two. So there's going to be a lot of questions on that from PED. Now, one of the other things is because we spend everything that we get in salaries and benefits, we're having to pick up some additional salaries and benefits. in the 15,100 as well, which is your impact aid money, plus all the department budgets, school site budgets, et cetera. So these numbers are just reflecting anything that we needed to keep in SEG that was directly driven by SEG. For instance, we have to do what's called maintenance of effort, and so those salaries and benefits will stay in there. We had to do all the instructional materials because that's driven from there. That comes in here. So we had to be real creative of trying to figure out what to move into the other fund now that the two funds are split. So it's kind of a little bit skewed in percentage-wise because of all the changes that have to happen. But probably starting within the next year or so, the comparisons will be very similar because we'll kind of have a better, identity of where everything is. But that's what that sheet is. And then all that big packet, that's the detail of everything that was uploaded and submitted. It's thousands and thousands of lines of data that goes in to create this, because each line probably has, I don't even know how many lines of data to import. So that's it for budget presentation for me, and I stand for any questions.
We thank you very much for all of that. Are there any questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Mr. Montoya?
I have none.
Mr. Sol?
Looking right now, what comes
Time's up. No more
brains
questions.
turning.
Just kidding.
So where would legal expenses be covered?
I'm not sure if that one was moved into 15,100.
Where would legal expenses be covered at?
I'd have to look for it. I think it's under 23, like a 2300 function. So let me see if I can find it. I have my glasses on. It's probably gonna be in 15,100. I'm guessing, because we moved all of the expenses for the departments into 15,100, so it should be over there. Yes, it's on page 15 of 44. And again, because we're shifting,
You see it?
we're having to move expenses.
That's total for all services, correct? All legal services?
That's where we're estimating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, we went back to, in time, off of our budgets, based on, where we were. So a lot of the school site budgets, the department budgets, might have to be adjusted based on what their true needs are, because I'm just trying to figure out a starting point.
Because I think in one of the other past documents that we saw, it was our legal expenses are $500,000 plus. So this is a change down to 210,000.
Right, and again, I was just trying to start a baseline, so we do possibly, we would probably have to increase in a lot of other areas, but that's where we're gonna have to really watch everything next year and go through carefully, expenditure by expenditure.
So where would health insurance cover that as a whole? how does our fixed costs compare to last year in terms of health insurance?
They're going to increase unless that's something that we'll need to decide. If the district went to an 80-20 model this past year, I believe, or maybe the year before, it's an increase to the district of about 1.2 million when we looked at that. So my recommendation would be that we possibly back to a tiered model where it's a 40-60, 75-25, 80-20, I believe, and it's
Based off of income
tiered
salary.
off of income salary. Mhm.
And that doesn't include that 15% increase by NIMSIA, right?
Probably not, so it'd probably be bigger.
Doubt it.
Yeah. So the percentage we'll pick up is a lot bigger
Yep.
if we don't move to that. So I would need, oh boy, we might have to skip on unless you guys want to do a special board meeting because we didn't include that in, I just found that out. We have to sign it by next week if we're going to go back to a tiered model. So that's something that the
Yeah,
board
because
would
that's changing salary, changing cost.
And I would, I believe that would also be potentially a union issue as well.
I'm sorry, what?
Usually that's also an issue of union negotiation as well.
Union,
Oh, union, okay.
CBA.
So we might have missed we might have to stick with it for this year and then look at it for next year. But it is a big cost for the district.
It's a huge increase.
So just to round out this topic, board members, the reason we brought it before you tonight was just to help the public understand where we were with the budget, that we are facing a fairly large percentage of empty desks, meaning our student count has dropped significantly over the past 10 years, and it's kind of catching up to the budget. And so just wanted to make sure the public was aware, to Ms. Gonzalez's point, that through strategic planning, the budget and various aspects of that will have to become leaner, and potential for consolidation in certain areas will occur. So just wanted to make sure the public was aware of that. And then also that the board has held several meetings to really get its arms around this information, because they wanted to make really well-informed decisions and meet with the superintendent on the best way to move forward with that. And so that's really just the purpose, board members and members of the public. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for bringing this back in that way so that we could kind of finish that out. And great job on getting that in before the deadline.
Thank you. Well, to my whole department and everybody else's departments.
Are there other aspects of the budget that we still have to do, such as a public hearing on the budget?
No, we're done, board members. So you all voted the budget in last special meeting. And this is just because it was a special meeting, this is just kind of going above and beyond. My understanding is, Ms. Gonzalez, you did have some public meetings leading up to those special meetings with the board. So from my understanding, all of that's done, it's approved and submitted to PED.
Yes, we had two, and I have Mr. Wells and Mr. Montoya on the finance committee. Okay, so we'll be starting to meet more regularly and try and get, some topics up and start really looking at things. So hopefully every other month, and if we feel like we need more, we'll bring it to maybe monthly, but just need to get it started, the year started, start looking at things, get the contracts in, and start looking at where we're at, because that'll give us a better idea of where we're at once things settle.
And then just the other thing to note that we did also discuss in special meetings is that we are having as a district some concerns with how the SEG formula works in practice. And hopefully Ms. Gonzalez will be asked to be on the task force, the SEG formula task force again this interim, because we think we have a really, unique and important perspective to share with that SEG task force in terms of how they fund, meaning the state funds school districts like ours that are both rural and remote, but also very spread out. And oftentimes formulas like the SEG formula don't take into consideration increased costs attributable to rural and remote and geographically dispersed districts like ours. The other aspect to that, which is really important, and Ms. Gonzalez mentioned, is the increase in utilities. And that's something that the state's gonna really need to look at, because those increases in utilities are in large part a factor of the new energy policy that the state passed. And so that's gonna need to trickle down to actual increases in funding to shore up that gap. But we'll obviously continue to bring reports back to the board on those issues. My understanding is that some of this was actually discussed today at that Legislative Finance Committee meeting in Gallup, and that potentially they're looking at various ways to try to factor in some of those increased costs. So that's positive. We just got to, I think, keep their feet to the fire and make sure and advocate for the needs of our district in that setting.
One of the other questions I have is, what sort of multiplier is used in the TE index? Because I know a large part of that is used to calculate the amount of SEG that we get, which is the training experience index of all of our teachers and staff.
Mm-hmm. I don't recall what it is.
Do we have an increase or decrease in that multiplier?
I didn't look at it that carefully. I'd have to look. I can get you the two 910B5s so that we can look at that. The multiplier is a 1. I think we're just slightly over 1. So I think it's almost a 1-to-1 ratio on it, but I can go back and look at that and get you that information.
And that's a great question, board member. So, and that's part of what's at issue, is that the SEG formula is actually in flux. They did take a look, a kind of preliminary look, right, Ms. Gonzalez, last interim. I think this interim, they're gonna really roll their sleeves up and bring potential changes to the 60-day session. So as we all know, that could be great for our school district. It could also make things worse. So we really need to make sure that we are on that issue very diligently.
I can get for you the packet that I presented for the, that was one of the things that we did in the budget committee, is we went over what is the 910B5, how is it funded, how it weights all the students, then it weights in your different, like your special ed, your at-risk students, it brings in your PE units, your, I'm trying to think what else, your art, fine arts, all of those, and it weights them certain weights, and then that's what determines your new value. And so we started off at like 5,000 units. We end up with about 9,000 units times the unit value, and then that's what funds us. But as we start losing students, that's what drives the loss in the funds. And so we've really got to start looking at that and really right-sizing to what's going on with the actual funding. So.
Okay, taking that into account, what is the change in our students from last year compared to this year overall as a district?
About 300 students.
That's a whole school.
Yeah. If we're having like a 200 students in in a building, yeah.
And just to, round that conversation out, board members, so we did see a huge uptick, 700+% in our student homeless rates after the closure of San Juan Generating Station. And so a large amount of those numbers are attributable to that closure. A lot of families obviously had to leave to find work. But there are other, factors. I think Ms. Gonzalez did hit on a really good point that we need to figure out, what amount of those students are leaving because of lack of jobs and attributable to plant closure, and what are some things in the realm of our control to bring some of our students back. And so it's a really important question for, obviously, board, superintendent, and staff to analyze.
No, not right now.
Ms. Gonzalez, do you have anything else for us?
No, I'm
Anything?
tired and I'm ready to
But
sleep.
you do know what the TNA index is, right? How that is, because it usually affects how our, in addition to the student count, there's also that TNA index. And that's the experience level of all our teachers in the district, whether, like how many are level 1, level 2, level 3 teachers. And they usually attach like a multiplier based on that.
Yes.
And that gives us a pretty decent sized number. So with that, I'm curious what that TNA index looks like for our district.
Yeah, it's not that big like you think it is. It's only a 1 point something. It's like 1.03, 1.06. It's really not very high. They changed the way it worked.
Change the qualifier.
It actually, when they looked at it, it actually, I think they said it actually funds better, but, we'd have to look at it on a side by side, yeah. But as in terms of a multiplier, it's not that big. But we can break that all out and I can give you that information.
Okay.
Used to get 30 years of experience, doesn't do that anymore. That ability.
And well, I guess we have to prove something.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Gonzalez?
I have none.
President Haskey? We'll move on then to item 4, discussion.
Have an item.
For consideration for our next board meeting, go ahead.
Superintendent would like the food service department organizational chart and the cost to the district for utilizing the contractors. So we can see if that's been a benefit. Thank you.
Anything else? Item 5.
Can you repeat the question?
The question was, are there any items for the next school board meeting?
I have a statement, a comment.
Go ahead.
There's been a lot of stuff that has been going around on Facebook in regards to not allowing seniors to wear traditional clothing or the regalia, the bead work and all that, and the graduation on the graduation cap and having eagle plumes. And I speak for myself. and talking with a couple other board members that we want to make sure that it's known that we support our students in wearing traditional attire, traditional regalia. And we celebrate with them. I think it's outlined in our policy. Sometimes it gets misconstrued. It can sometimes isn't really, I guess, looked at correctly. So right now I'm stating that, and I would like to make sure that that is conveyed to the senior sponsors or whoever it needs to go to. And if I can, I would like to review that policy on Tuesday. And I want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Because I for sure do not want to mar our school district in controversy, and I want to be able to celebrate with our students and not harass them at a time that they are happy, joyous, and this is celebrating their milestone. And I want to make sure that's clear. Thank you.
If I may add to that, I concur with Board President's comments and certainly would like us to go over that as well, because the last thing we need are administrators in these schools to tell these kids to cover up. We don't need that happening. Thank you.
Mind if I add to that as well?
Go ahead.
So I just want to say that that message has already been relayed. It's going to be relayed tomorrow on my address. I've already recorded it, so when you see that, you might wonder why I'm wearing the same shirt I'm wearing right now. It's not like I'm going to wear it tomorrow. But that message hopefully is relayed loud and clear to everybody on our staff. And it's not just because of what happened in Farmington, it's because we believe kids should have the opportunity to express themselves, and especially with their culture. So we'll make sure that happens. Thanks for that, Board President Haskey.
Especially at a time where they're celebrating an accomplishment. Yes, I agree.
I hope everybody heard me say hashtag bring your kids back to the res so we can teach them and honor them.
If there's no further discussions, we'll move to item 5.
Motion to adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. We adjourn.
I vote yes.
All in favor?
I oppose.
Aye. Mr. Soul?
My vote is yes. I think you're outvoted, Mr. So.
It's been moved and approved, and we will adjourn.